She went under the wheels.
How affected.
Welcome to Under the Wheels. I'm Matthew.
I'm Gabe.
And today is a special episode. I feel like every time I introduce this, I'm like, it's a special episode. But today is a special episode. Today we're talking about the top 10 movies of 2019. I'm sure Gabe and I will have some we agree with, some we disagree with, and I'm excited to get into it. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
And I know there's going to be overlap on this, but before we begin, as always, what have you been watching lately, sir?
Well, I did like that 1 week or 1 month or whatever free trial of Shudder. So I tried to take advantage of that. So I watched Tigers Are Not Afraid, which is a Mexican sort of horror fantasy movie that came out this year that seemed kind of interesting. It's pretty whatever, unfortunately. Like, it's good, but it's just not, I don't know, it's pretty eh. I also watched Ichi the Killer.
Ooh, how was that?
Which is fucking crazy. The thing is, though, with that movie is it's, it came out in like 1999, 2000, 2001, somewhere in there. And it's like there's so much primitive CGI, especially for a lot of the extra over-the-top violence that the movie's famous for.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the most horrific violence in the movie is so cartoonish looking that it doesn't actually feel that bad, at least not now. Which I think is, going against what the movie's trying to do, where it is trying to be like both repulsive and comedic almost. But I think anyone who likes like bizarre and insane Japanese movies should check it out if they get the chance. Because it's such a famous one. And it's also interesting too, just because, there's no real like main character in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even though it's called Ichi the Killer, Ichi is almost secondary. Like, he's just sort of there, and he kind of becomes more important as the story goes on, but he kind of fades in and out of the spotlight, whereas, like, the spotlight tends to be shared by him, Tadanobu Asano, who's, like, definitely the star, or brings most of the star power, and then all of the really weird, wacky side characters that just sort of pop in and out periodically.
Oh, I've heard a lot about it, and between that and like Audition, that's kind of what carved out Takeshi Miike as like, oh, he's the king of Japanese extreme cinema. So I've like danced around it, but it was good.
It's pretty good, yeah. It's definitely worth checking out. I understand that it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, especially like one of the stranger things about it, which I think is part of what makes it really interesting, is that like the entire movie is wall to wall like violence and depravity and horror, but it switches off between playing it for laughs and playing it for tragedy.
Really? Oh. Does it handle it well?
I think it does, but I can understand why that not everyone would have that impression. It may come off for some people as being like glib or overindulgent or confused even. But I think it picks the right spots to play it for laughs, and it picks the right spots to play it for like, Jesus Christ, this is terrible. And then on that note, I also watched Tetsuo the Iron Man, which is really good.
Is it an adaptation of Jon Favreau's The Iron Man?
It's a black and white movie about... Have you heard of it?
I don't think so, no. Tetsuo the
it's
Iron
like
Man?
It's a famous like cult black and white movie from the 80s about a Japanese salaryman who turns into a giant... Like, he slowly transforms into a robot, essentially, through, like, pure rage. All, like, parts of his body start turning into metal once he's infected by this weird program that was created by a guy that he accidentally hit with his car.
Okay.
It's also, like, extremely ultra-violent and insane. And it's cool because it's got a lot of really interesting, like, film techniques in it. Like, there's like, one of the things is the metal guys run around on, like, rocket-powered skates. So I think they have a guy, like, sprinting with a camera across, like, massive, just blocks and blocks and blocks of Tokyo, or maybe on a skateboard or something. And then they speed it up so it's insanely quick. and that's kind of the shorthand for like the main character going from one place to another. There's a lot of cool cinematography in it. There's a lot of cool like horror practical effects. There's some interesting like visual gags in there. It's a really good, like, if you're into like Cronenberg type body horror movies.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like that.
It's one of the best, I think, exemplars of the genre.
Tetsuo the Iron Man.
Yeah, it's good. I was pleasantly surprised, and it's only 40 minutes, so it's a quick watch. Yeah, it's really short.
I thought it was like a feature film. Oh shit.
Well,
Okay.
40 minutes is technically a feature according to French rules.
Oh, okay. It's like the what's yeah. I can't think of the name of it, but that one guy who made the movie where his partner's like a rhino or like a dinosaur cop. I can't think of it.
What?
It's oh my god, I can't think of it. I can't think of the name, but he wears a bandana and it's like super weird and like he calls upon the power of Thor at one point and
this is nuts, man.
I gotta.
Oh wait, are you thinking of Kung Fury?
Yes, I am thinking of Kung Fury.
I love Kung Fury.
Yeah, Kung Fury. It sounds a little. It kind of reminds me of a bit of Kung Fury.
Other than that, let's see. I watched Mean Girls for the first time, and that was pretty funny.
Really, you've never seen Mean Girls before?
Never seen it, but it was good. I saw Frances Ha because I'm on kind of a Noah Baumbach kick right now because I'm trying to figure out like what the hell is a Noah Baumbach movie, especially because like I'd seen The Squid and the Whale and I thought it was good, but I've kind of forgotten about it since then. But then I really liked Marriage Story, which I think we can get into later.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get into Marriage Story later.
But yeah, so it's like, okay, well, let me see what some of his other movies are like, because I need to figure out, like, what is this guy's shtick? And Frances Ha is a good... I thought I was going to hate it, because it's so mumbly, but it's actually pretty good. It's not as mumbly as I was afraid it was going to be. Greta Gerwig is... Her character is, like, super annoying and frustrating, but that's kind of the point of the movie. Is because, like, she's basically a 30-year-old child who just keeps... fucking up her life because she can't grow up, which is, I guess, which according to the movie is most New Yorkers. I don't know how true that is.
I was gonna say, isn't that what Greta Gerwig is like now?
Yeah, it's a good movie. And then I saw Burning, which is a 2018 Korean like psychological drama thriller type of deal.
Right.
And that movie's fucking amazing. Holy hell. Because there was a ton of hype around it when it came out, and then I just ignored it. And now I feel stupid for ignoring it, because it's amazing. It's so fucking pretty. Every shot in that movie is beautiful. And it's like, it's really creepy, and like, it's unnerving in a very slow burn sort of way, where everything starts off pretty normal, but just a little bit off. And then that sense of being a little bit off just builds and builds and builds and builds and builds until the world, which is otherwise ordinary, suddenly becomes like full of this inexplicable fear. You know, like everyday life is completely incomprehensible by the end.
Is it like a horror movie, or is it kind of like Parasite, where it kind of bends genres?
No, it's a pretty straight up like genre drama type movie. I mean, it's a thriller that takes the full runtime to turn into a thriller. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it's a drama that very slowly turns into a thriller, but it's incredible. I don't want to say too much about it, just because I think it's best to go in as kind of a blank slate.
I think that's
it has. You know, we've documented our love of dance sequences in movies.
Yes,
and it's got one of the better ones out there.
Okay. I mean, I got the message that you're like, oh, you should see Burning, and it's kind of similar with Parasite, where you were like, you should see Parasite, and I was like, I don't know, man. Korean movies, like, you know, Mobius is a Korean movie. Then I'm like, I don't know, tread lightly. But like between that and like Snowpiercer, The Good, the Bad, the Weird, Train to Busan, like there's all of these Korean movies that come out that seem like they should belong in one genre, but have enough tweaks in it that it encourages you to like keep watching because it's gonna.
Yeah, that's true. The other thing with Burning is it's based on a short story, so it is very literary. If you've read a lot of like prestige-y kind of books in college or whatever,
yeah,
the style is going to feel kind of familiar, or like the type of story will feel familiar.
Okay.
Also, there's a really cool sequence like in the middle of the movie where they film like an entire scene during sunset. So it's like the whole scene plays out as it goes from day to night.
Oh shit.
And I'm like, Jesus, that's fucking ballsy, man. Like, yeah, can you imagine having to reshoot that? That sounds like a nightmare. But it's pulled off to perfection. Like, they do a great job.
Well, what happens in the scene? Is it like an intense action-packed scene?
No, but there's like a lot of the key conversations that are central to the plot of the second half of the movie take place during that scene, as well as the dance sequence.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, La La Land had a sequence that like the sun literally set while it was going, but that one was like that was a nightmare to film in that one in the sense of like they had to do it multiple days. But that's interesting.
Oh, the other thing is like this scene and kind of the mini scenes that make it up. I mean, this is like a half hour long.
The scene itself?
Yeah, the scene itself. The sunset, the entire sunset sequence and all the little things that make it up are something like a half hour.
Is it all done in one take or is it cut? It's
cut.
Okay.
It's cut normally,
Okay. But you can still tell that time is elapsing.
Oh yeah, you can you see the sun go down. There's one very long shot that's maybe a minute or two, maybe even longer, where the three characters are talking and you're looking over their shoulders at the sun declining over the horizon.
Oh wow.
So like from a technical standpoint, this movie's got some guts. Because like I think you pitched that idea to a lot of people. Like, are you out of your fucking mind? Like 99% of cinematographers out there are going to be like, that's insane. You're a psychopath. But yeah, Burning, it's a fantastic movie. And if I had a chance to redo my 2018 list, it would definitely be like top 5.
Wow, that good.
Yeah, it's that good.
Wow. Holy shit.
And then, last but not least, I rewatched The Mask of Zorro, which is like one of my all-time favorite movies from my childhood. I fucking love that movie, man. Dude. And it's weird, because watching it again, like, it's strange that, even, because it came out in 1998, so even at the time, it was kind of a throwback. Right. To like old swashbuckler, practical effects, real stunts kind of movies. Mm-hmm. But now like that contrast is so much more prevalent. Like the movie and especially all of the action sequences, but just everything about it feels completely alien to what that type of movie would look like today. And it's so bizarre. And I hate to be that guy. It's like, oh, they don't make them like that anymore. But they really don't.
Quickly on Mask of Zorro, because I just started rewatching it myself. Because
nice.
Yeah, because I was thinking the same thing. I was like, it's so weird that we have this movie, because throwback movies in the 90s were not like... Throwback movies in the 90s were all about kind of like what The Force Awakens did, but The Mask of Zorro does it so much better. Like, they were all about introducing new characters, because you have Mission Impossible where it introduced Ethan Hunt, and you have Mask of Zorro. Now, granted, I'm still in the intro of The Mask of Zorro, but man, it just reminds me that every now and then, Martin Campbell can really hit it out of the park. Like, it doesn't happen too often, but fuck, he's like, when he's on fire, he is like one of the best.
Oh, totally. And it's so strange, because it's like, there's nothing like crazy innovative about it necessarily, other than maybe using like cougar noises for the explosions, which is I still love because it's so corny. But it's just like the plot is ripped straight from a soap opera. Like, it's so over the top. It's so like it does not take itself seriously at all. It it has like it has that great sense of fun and adventure, but it never tries to tone down any like violence or anything, because it's supposed to be a fun movie.
Right.
Like, I remember it's like this very, it is just a fun piece of fluffy entertainment, but at the same time you have like Anthony Hopkins railing against the elites and the one American guy getting like run right through with a sword very blatantly, and you're like, oh shit. Oh, and the heads in jars.
I don't remember that. I mean, the most famous scene for me, as for most kids growing up with that, is when Antonio Banderas just completely cuts down Catherine Zeta-Jones's dress.
That's
And, like,
everyone. That's the famous scene for that's what the movie's best known for. Is that one
yeah.
part.
Yeah, I mean, with good reason. Catherine Zeta-Jones was so fucking hot in that movie. My God, dude. Like, even before she got her top cut down, I was like, God damn it, Catherine Zeta-Jones. And, like, Antonio Banderas had already kind of been established, but that's the movie I know him from.
That's the movie a lot of people know him from, at
Like,
least at that time.
Well, I think there's a good amount of people who knew him from R-rated movies because of, like, Philadelphia and specifically Desperado. But that was kind of where he, like, went over the crest, and he was like, now he's not just,
Well, I mean,
Antonio
he shows
Banderas.
up in Shrek solely because of that movie.
Right, as Puss in Boots. Yep.
Yeah.
But it's funny because, like, we were talking about Ford v Ferrari, how James Mangold is such, like, a studio director, but, like, he's really good. I feel like Martin Campbell's probably one step below him, because there are some stuff he does that is really good, like Mask of Zorro, Casino Royale for me. And then there's, like, a whole host of movies that you're just like, oh, God, what the hell were you
Green
thinking?
Lantern.
Oh, God, what the hell were you thinking? I mean,
The
Foreigner's okay, but it's just okay. Edge of Darkness didn't really go anywhere, so...
Yeah, well, the thing with Martin Campbell is, like, I can't say... Like, he is way more hit or miss than James Mangold is. Like, Mangold
by far,
is so much more consistent.
Yeah.
But I don't love any James Mangold movies. I love at least 2 Martin Campbell movies. So there's that.
Let me guess. Mask of Zorro
And Casino Royale.
Yeah, we're in the same boat there. You mean you don't love Vertical Limit? Dude. Dude, Vertical Limit is fucked up. It's crazy. When I found out Martin Campbell directed it, I was like, what the fuck, dude? Yeah, man, Chris O'Donnell. Vertical Limit.
Yeah, I wouldn't know, man. I wouldn't know.
Oh, man. But yeah, Mask of Zorro is awesome.
Yeah.
I was rewatching...
So what have you been...
Well,
Go
just
ahead.
quickly, I was rewatching Mask of Zorro because I was like, I remember loving this as a kid. I don't remember if it still holds up, but it's good to hear that it, in fact, still holds up.
Oh, it totally holds up. It definitely holds up. At least for me.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear.
So what have you been watching lately?
I've been watching a lot of The Mandalorian. I have 2 more episodes to go, and I understand why everyone, like, absolutely has lost their shit over it. Like, you have the really cute, Baby Yoda puppet. Well, okay, first off, Under the Wheels will never call the 50-year-old bounty Baby Yoda anymore, because he's not Baby Yoda, because this takes place less than 50 years after Return of the Jedi. Yoda died in Return of the Jedi, so therefore it cannot be a reincarnation of Yoda. So everyone, please stop calling the 50-year-old bounty Baby Yoda. Okay. But the puppet is adorable. So I understand why everyone loves it. But did you ever watch Firefly or Serenity?
No.
Okay. Well, then this reference is not going to make any sense. But did you ever watch like Stargate Atlantis or Stargate or Star Trek The Next Generation or Enterprise or anything like that?
Nope.
Okay. Well, that's why everyone loves The Mandalorian. Because no one watches science fiction television, and The Mandalorian is like Firefly in the sense that it is a Western in space, but it has Star Wars elements, and it borrows heavily from, like, the feel of Lone Wolf and Cub, especially, like, the first couple episodes. So I think that's why everyone's kind of losing their shit over it. It's good, but it still feels very television-y. Like, it feels like a bunch of like little stories that are very loosely connected. Take with that what you will. I rewatched the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the extended edition, because I was sick and I needed something to watch. No surprises. To me, the trilogy holds up, and it's gotten to the point now where when I'm watching the 4-hour cut of Return of the King, it could be longer. I'm like, what? They need to have more of this here. They need to have more of that there. But those were good. And then I saw a bunch of movies. One of them, which I think we're going to get into a little bit. But the 2 that we won't talk about at all are Cats and Jumanji: The Next Level.
Oh, God. Well, how do you end up seeing a lot of these things, like Jumanji: The Next Level, or what was it? You saw like Maleficent 2 or whatever?
Yes, I did. I saw Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. Oh my god, dude. What the hell are they doing?
So yeah, why?
So
life is short, man.
So I have the AMC A-list. This is going to sound like an AMC A-list plug. I have the AMC A-list. I spend $24 and I get to watch 3 movies a week in any format. So in order to make sure that my costs are worth it, there's a number of movies that I'm like mildly curious about that I want to see. For example, Cats. There are a number of movies that I don't really have any interest in seeing, but other people I know want to see it. For example, Jumanji. And then there are the movies that I want to see multiple times alone, and I have to carve out time to do that, which in this last case was Knives Out I rewatched and Star Wars I rewatched because god damn it, I wanted to see that Tenet preview, and I didn't get to.
You know it's on YouTube, right?
Yeah, I know, but Christopher Nolan, he's like, hey, everyone who watches this, you should watch the trailer in theaters like it's intended. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to watch this trailer in theaters like it's intended. God damn. I did finally see the trailer, though. I finally saw it. But the best part about Jumanji is when, what's his name? The guy who was fired from hosting the Oscar, or who, Kevin Hart. When Kevin Hart is pretending to be Danny Glover and Jack Black is pretending to be a black man. Those are by far the funniest bits in the whole movie, and they really draw those out. So it's not that you care, but it is, to me, better than the first one. I think the first one is vastly overrated, and the second one is kind of just a fun adventure movie. So yeah, and then Cats was fucking awful. Oh my god, in the best way possible. We don't really have to go into how Tom Hooper's a horrible director.
Again.
He got lucky with the King's Speech, and then it's just all downhill from here. But I luckily got to see a version before Universal sent through the new edits with the fixed CG, so I got all the real Judi Dench hands everywhere.
Oh.
Yes.
There's... You know what's what's fucking bad when, like, you know, video games come out and they're broken and there's like a day one update you have to download to play it.
You know, like, it's bad when that happens.
You know what's bad when movies have day one updates you have to download to fucking play the thing.
It's like the only reason why the digital distribution model in movies is actually good. Because now it gets people out there to see the movie before it's fixed. Because no one wants to see fixed movies. Everyone wants to see the really shitty version of the movie. I know. I will say this, like, I don't understand, between Cats and, like, the Phantom of the Opera film version, Andrew Lloyd Webber should just stay out of movies. He can't pick good directors for his projects. Like, Cats is not...
Wait, did Andrew Lloyd Webber produce?
I think he's the one who... Cats is his product. It's, like, his property, right?
Well, I know he did the play, but, like, I don't know if he...
I believe he's part of the production team for the movie. Because, like, he has, like, a stranglehold on all of his projects. That's why it took so long for Phantom to be made. According to some people. Yeah.
Yo, there's a direct-to-video Cats as well.
Really? Yeah. I wonder if it's an adaptation of the stage, like if it's just like shot on stage and cut together.
Probably, which is how those things tend to go.
I mean, that would be better than the fucking movie we got. Oh my god, dude.
He's not listed as a producer.
Really?
At least not on Wikipedia. Whatever that's worth. Oh, there you go. Right. Really Useful Group Limited is an international company set up in 1977 by Andrew Lloyd Webber. It is involved in theater, film, television, video, and concert productions, merchandising, and other money-making endeavors.
We need to bring back Cats on Broadway. What's the best way to do it? With a movie. Who are we going to get? The guy who butchered Les Miserables. It's just, it's really weird. It's bad. I don't understand how he got Judi Dench and like Ian McKellen in on it, but like a lot of the things have already been touched on by other people. The visual design is weird. The aesthetic is weird. But then it's also just cut really poorly. Like, it doesn't...
Well, that's every movie these days.
I guess, but you would think, yeah. That actually, yeah, pretty much. You don't really connect to any of the characters. the stage show itself is really stream of conscious, and that's not helped in here. And then maybe it's just I don't think the sound mix was really good either, because the moment that's supposed to be like the grandest moment, which is like Jennifer Hudson singing her heart out about memories, which is like the only song people know from Cats, you can barely hear anything she's saying. It might have been my theater, but my God, it was just horribly executed all around. I fell asleep 3 times in it, so
wow.
there you go. Yeah, I had to fight to stay awake. It was, I know a lot of people want it to be like midnight movie bad, and it might get to that point. But my God, unless I get to like throw spoons at the screen, it's gonna be hard for me to ever sit and just watch it. Like I
mean, to watch, a lot of people are wasted when they watch midnight movies as well.
Yeah, it's actually
like you go to
the best way to watch this.
Well, I mean, when you go to like a theater that's playing The Room, no one in that theater is sober.
That's true. That's true. And nobody's really watching the movie. They're just watching for the spots where they get to do the thing.
Well, they're shouting all the lines back at the screen and then throwing spoons.
Why a spoon, cousin? Why a spoon?
Well, you know the story behind that, right?
Why is it spoons? No, I don't know the story behind the spoons.
So the set of the movie is decorated with all these picture frames, and it's like those generic picture frames you get at the store that have a black and white photo inserted in,
right?
Like a stock photo, and you're supposed to take it out and put your own photo in. Well, they never did that, and all the stock photos happened to be of spoons. So, like, just throughout the movie, anytime they're in that house or apartment or whatever that is supposed to be, there's all these just stock photos of spoons everywhere. So anytime you see one on screen, you're supposed to bring like a thing of spoons to the theater. Yeah, and you throw spoons at the screen.
Oh man, dude. Sometimes people are just amazing. Like that's an example of like amazing people. Oh my God. And did I tell you that I saw Shadow?
What's Shadow?
The oh my God, I can't think of the director's name. The guy who did Hero and House of Flying Daggers.
Oh, Zhang Yimou.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. Or as I would say, Zhang Yimou.
Zhang Yimou.
Yeah, Zhang Yimou. I saw Shadow, which I'm not a huge fan of his movies. I always feel like there's just something missing. I mean, see the Great
lack
Wall
of Chinese propaganda.
Ooh, that might be it.
It needs to be politically neutral, and that's what's missing.
No, it's usually like a story beat. Like I was like, House of Flying Daggers just kind of ends depressingly to end depressingly. Hero is probably the best one, but that also ends with like everybody dies. It's like when you're a kid and you're making up your story and you're just like, yeah, and this is happening and this is happening and this is happening, and then what? You need an ending. Everyone dies. Like that's what his movies are.
You mean Shakespeare?
No, because everyone lives at the end of his comedies.
Well, but no one remembers those.
I don't know. I have. Yeah. You're right. Yeah, but Shakespeare at least does it well. You know, sometimes.
If Shakespeare wasn't Shakespeare and you just gave someone like a Wikipedia synopsis of his stories, they'd be like, what? This ending just comes out of nowhere. Like, what? This is stupid.
If you ever see like a show where they like the 3-person show where they're like every Shakespeare play in one night, when it comes to their comedies, they're just like every single comedy is the same. There's like there's like a guy and he has a brother who hates him, and then he finds like a woman that he falls in love with, but the woman plays a man, and the man and the woman fall in love, but the man doesn't realize that the woman is actually a woman and not actually a man. And I was like, yep. And then there's one guy there who like summarizes all the play's themes that everyone hates, but he's actually the best character. I was like, yep. As you like it, I get it. But Shadow is like the best Zhang Yimou movie I've seen, aside from The Great Wall, but that's for different reasons.
Wait, what?
The Great Wall is so bad. It's amazing. Like, I think the production designer for Lord of the Rings worked on it, which is funny because the production designer for Lord of the Rings is also working on Mulan. Anyway, yeah, it's strange. Strange world we live in. but visually Shadow is amazing, and the way that they tie the visuals into the story works really well. So like the entire movie is like super desaturated black and white, except you get hints of reds when people bleed and you get their skin tone. So it's almost like watching an ink wash come to life, but with a little bit of like skin texture thrown in. And some of the sets are completely built in black and white, and you can tell. And then there are other sets that are that are like shot on location, but they desaturate everything except for like the actors' faces. And so it's really cool how that's just like the visual look of it. But it's kind of also... See, I say that it's reflected in the story, but now when it comes down to actually proving that, I'm going to fail. So, but the story itself is about like, it's kind of like got a bit of Kagemusha mixed in, where it's about this guy who's a body double for this great general, and you kind of follow the story of this guy as he's trying to become the great general so that he can go back home. And it involves like a mad king who is trying to keep peace with another kingdom, and this general kind of goes out on his he kind of goes AWOL and challenges another great general to a battle. And so the imposter has to fight this great general, but he doesn't have the skills for it. But like he still has to do it anyway. And there's a great war scene because it's a Zhang Yimou movie, and it's really good. And it's on Netflix, and I recommend it. And if it was in 2019, it would probably be on my top 10 list, but it's not. But it's really interesting. It's really good. It's like all of his faults as a filmmaker, he kind of uses to his advantage in this. Like his inability to really tell a good ending actually works to his advantage for this particular story. So, yeah.
This story doesn't matter that the ending sucks.
Yep. Or, yeah, pretty much, yeah. It's,
okay.
Yeah, so. But that's pretty much it, I think, aside from a bit of TV here and there. So, now that we're 40 minutes in, should we get into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, do you want to start with 10 and then get to the honorable mentions as we get to number 1, or should we start with our honorable mentions now?
Let's just do honorable mentions last.
Last?
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. All right. What's your top 10 movie, number 10 for 2019?
Number 10 is, after resorting my list on Excel, Uncut Gems.
Oh, dang!
So it actually made the list after I
Damn.
thought it didn't. It turns out I'm just illiterate, so I can't tell the difference between 10 and 11.
Oh, no.
So yeah, Uncut Gems is number 10.
Oh, perfect. I don't have to talk about it for my honorable mentions now.
Exactly.
All right. So Uncut Gems. Go ahead.
All right, yeah. Uncut Gems, very good movie. It's like I've seen Good Time and I've seen Heaven Knows What, and it kind of misses the frantic intensity, especially of Good Time. But I mean, it has like that feel later on, but the first half of the movie's pretty slow. It takes a while to get going. But once it gets going, I mean, holy shit.
Yeah.
it goes. It's hard to talk about any of the first half because the first half is so nondescript to me. It's just kind of fine.
Oh, really?
But,
I really like the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, I didn't like the beginning that much. I love the last like hour or so where it's just so white knuckle intense. Like you're on the edge of your seat. Even if you're a huge basketball nerd or a big Celtics fan, like you know kind of what's gonna happen. You know, it's so well done and it's so intense. Adam Sandler does a very good job. You know, I don't think this is his best performance, but he definitely does really well. I just love this. I just love the Safdie brothers style, how kind of jumpy and fast-paced everything is. I love all the weird cameos of like strange New York people that only they know and like kind of pluck off the street and show up in every one of their movies for some reason. Like the two bodyguards for
Eric
Arnold.
Bogosian.
Yeah, the two bodyguards for Eric Bogosian. They're both like just random like New Yorkers.
Are they in other Safdie brother movies?
I don't think they're in the other Safdie brothers movies. I was kind of trying to keep an eye out for the Safdie brothers regulars. Like there's this one rapper who shows up in every one of their movies, but I couldn't find him in this one. There's another guy. You remember in Good Time, there's like the dude that they get from the hospital who won't shut up.
Yeah.
I think he's in like all of their movies, but I didn't see him in this one.
Yeah, I was gonna say like he would be someone that would like you would instantly recognize from another one of from their movies. Yeah.
Yeah, I also like that it's a movie about sports where Kevin Garnett's playing himself, but Mike Francesca is not playing Mike Francesca.
Yeah, you're gonna have to elaborate a little bit on that one.
Oh, sorry, Mike Francesca's a sports radio guy.
Who is he in the movie?
He plays the bookie.
Okay.
Who's like, oh, that's the dumbest bet I ever heard.
Oh
He's
my God,
also
so
he's
good.
also he's famous in New York for having like being like New York's Stephen A. Smith / Skip Bayless.
Yeah.
Like just giving the world's dumbest hot takes over radio.
And then just being super hyperbolic about them.
Oh yeah, always. But it's like usually just about New York sports. You know, I like Lakeith Stanfield in anything. He's always fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel that too because he's awesome in Knives Out.
Yeah, like he just has to show up for 5 minutes, and whatever he does will be pretty good.
Yeah.
He's kind of I don't know. He's really reliable in that sense.
He is. He's another solid guy. Like like Daniel Kaluuya.
Yeah. Like I like him more than Daniel Kaluuya.
I do too.
Generally, I also like I love that one bit like kind of towards the end where he has his falling out with Adam Sandler's character and gets so pissed he like pours Gatorade in his fish tank.
Yeah.
And it's just like of all the things like you gotta kill the fish. Like why, dick? I like how also like Adam Sandler like his character's sort of strange relationships with his various family members and friends play out where it's like he tries to like he sort of has a come to Jesus moment and realizes all the mistakes he's made and he goes back to his wife and kids and like tries to make up to them and he's talking to his wife and he gives her like I'm done, like can we start over, give me another chance, and then his wife is just like go fuck yourself. Like that is the dumbest shit I ever heard. I hate it. I hate you. You're annoying. Just your breathing is annoying. And I'm like, holy fuck. And then he ends up like him and his mistress are actually like made for each other. Yeah. Which I thought was like a neat little twist. I also like just crusty, wrinkly old Judd Hirsch.
Yes.
Like rising from the grave to be in one last movie.
Well, it's so funny because like everyone likes Adam Sandler's character and his character is horrible. Just like the fucking worst.
You know, he's totally the worst. He's a jerk and an idiot at the same time, which is like the worst combo.
And yet as an audience we keep going along. Like that's the one thing about the movie is like as an audience I'm watching the movie but I don't know if I'm hoping he succeeds. I guess at a certain degree I am because like I want his kind of like in a heist movie I kind of want his cockamamie solution where he's bet all of the money on this game and he's taken all the money that he got from this other person and bet it here even though he should just pay him back with this and like all that stuff. Like that's why I like the beginning because like he does all of that like finagling with the ring and getting that extra money and putting the bet down. And then they're like, wait, what? Why did you stop the bet? I would have been able to pay you back. And then by the end of the movie, you realize, no, you would never have been able to pay him back because you just, you can't do it.
Yep. Well, and the ending of the movie, I don't know, I still kind of don't know how I feel about that because it's such a gut punch.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was almost done just because they're like, well, we can't have too happy of an ending. You know? Like, we have to do something.
They went Zhang Yimou on it.
Yeah, we have to go Zhang Yimou on it, but it's just like, why? Because, I mean, look, the endings of Heaven Knows What and Good Time are both pretty bleak, but they make sense, right? Like, they're motivated. Heaven Knows What, you know, the main character, her boyfriend accidentally kills himself, and she ends up kind of falling back into the same patterns of destructive behavior that have caused her all of these problems in her life. Which, you know, it's a depressing ending, but it makes sense because her character keeps trying to grow and then fails continuously because she doesn't really want to grow up. Or she doesn't really want to take the necessary steps to get her shit together.
Right.
In Good Time, the ending's kind of a bummer because, you know, Connie is kind of like Howard in Uncut Gems where he keeps trying to he owes the world for all of the horrible things he's done, but he keeps trying to outrun the debt collector. Like, he's trying to get, like, just stay ahead just long enough that he can get the money, pay everything off, and he can get away scot-free. But in that, like, his plans go to shit, and he realizes he has to just give himself up. The only way to save his brother is to sacrifice himself.
Right.
So he just confesses to everything, lets himself go to prison so his brother can go free. And again, it's a bummer, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
With this, it's like he wins. Howard wins. He gets his way. He was right. Even Arnold's kind of happy about it.
Yeah.
He just gets shot. Spoilers. He gets shot in the face.
Oh my god.
Bam. I mean, the suddenness of it is really well done. Like it really is well executed as this awful gut punch. But I just don't know how I feel about that within the larger context of the movie. Because then you're just like, what? Why? Like, what was the point then?
The only thing that I can really say that I came away with in the movie, what the point of was for me, was fuck, dude, it's not worth gambling.
I know.
It drives
Being
me
a gambling addict is just that must be the worst.
It's horrible, and like the thing, and he is clearly an addict on this because his life is very good. He's a high-end jewelry dealer. He has a house in New York, and he has an apartment in New York, and he drives expensive cars, and like he has a successful life, but he just can't enjoy it. He keeps fucking it up the whole movie, and that's probably why like I have a harder time relating to it, because like it's like, man, this does suck. However, he could have been like, if he hadn't done one of 20 different things, he wouldn't be in this situation. But he keeps putting himself in it. And then when he's finally out of the situation, like suddenly Kevin Garnett comes in and saves the day, even though he doesn't have to. And like the first thing he does, like I actually really love that moment where he's like, come on, man, you're a winner. We like to play the game. We like to win. And you're like, yeah, I understand that. And then all of a sudden he talks himself into betting all of the money. And I was like, what? What? It was amazing because like it didn't feel forced. It felt like organically that Sandler's character came to this conclusion and that this was a good idea. And I was like, oh my god. And that's like that on a technical level. I think this movie is amazing. Probably a little bit under Good Time, because Good Time just felt so gritty, down to earth, realistic, and not really studio at all. But this one did kind of meander a bit. Like he goes to, they show the slice of life of him, and he goes to like his daughter's concert, and like there are bits and pieces here and there where it's like it's things that happen that kind of move the plot forward, but also kind of are just like to show his everyday life. Whereas Good Time is just so tight.
So one of the interesting things is the cinematography is very different compared to the Safdie brothers' earlier movies. The director of photography for Uncut Gems was Darius Khondji, who worked with he's worked a lot with David Fincher, with Jean-Pierre Jeunet, with Woody Allen, with Michael Haneke, with James Gray, Bong Joon-ho. So he's a very established, acclaimed cinematographer. But I think that classical, or that more kind of proper quote-unquote style takes away a little bit from things. Just because, while the movie is really good looking and stuff, I think part of the Safdie brothers' character as filmmakers is the way that, like, say, Good Time was shot, where the camera is just like on meth, Yeah. It's bouncing all over the place. Like they introduce the main character with a whip pan to the right, and then just zooming in on him as he enters a room. And it's just like, I love it because it's the strangest character introduction I've ever seen. But I think that kind of manic energy is missing a little bit, which I think held the movie back for me.
Well, I know this is going to be kind of strange, but Good Time felt very bare bones, and they kind of strung it together with what little money they had to make the movie. And it's weird to say it's reflected in the credits, because the credits and how they present everyone is all over the place. Whereas with this movie, when it comes to the credits, it seems very much like DGA or contracted credits, like a typical movie. So it's kind of weird that this movie feels very it still feels like it's a Safdie brothers movie, because it still feels kind of like Good Time, but Good Time is just so much more like they had to put it together by their own wits and intuition, and this one felt like they had a lot more money and maybe one or two people they had to answer to. But with that said, they still were able to create their own unique style in the system, kind of like how Refn did with Drive.
Yeah, that's true.
But
it definitely bears the hallmarks of their style, but it's just not as much them as I think some of the earlier stuff. Even though, like, apparently this movie, they've been wanting to make it forever.
10 years, yeah.
Yeah, so everything's been working towards making Uncut Gems, which is interesting.
I mean, it would be different if they made this movie 10 years ago. Like, I don't think they would get Darius Kanji to do the cinematography. They get sort of whoever they got to do Good Time, or if they shot it themselves, they would do that. Also, like, I'm going to go way off topic here, but I love the fact that, like, one of the first images of the movie is literally Adam Sandler having a colonoscopy. Like, and the fact that it's actually thematically relevant.
I know. Well, and I like the bit later where, like, you know, kind of that transition from the second act to the third act where everything's going to shit. He gets the call from his doctor, and you're like, okay, this is where he gets the bad news or whatever. And the doctor's like, you know, he's freaking out because everything else is going to hell, and he picks up the phone. He's like, yeah, what is it? He's like, you all right? Yeah, I'm fine. It's like, what is it? You got the news? It's like, yeah, you're all good. It came back clean. You're all good. Healthy as a horse. He's like, oh, great. That's good to hear. I like that they brought back Daniel Lopatin to do the score, although...
Yeah.
Like, I still listen to the soundtrack to Good Time every now and then, whereas this one is not as, I think, listenable on its own. Like, it works better just with the movie.
Yeah. It's weird anytime someone has been developing a movie for so long and they think it's going to be their masterpiece, as I'm sure we're going to get into with a couple of these other movies, because it's almost like when they get this chance and they get this budget, because I feel like this is the stepping stone to the next level for them.
Yeah, it is, I would say.
And it's funny because it always kind of feels like it's really good, but it also feels kind of bittersweet. Or not bittersweet. It feels kind of empty. Like, it feels kind of like The Rise of Skywalker. It feels like there's missing something, you know? It's like, man, you guys made it, but it's not perfect. It's close, but you guys did better when, you know, you had restrictions. Like the first couple movies Scorsese did when he started getting huge budgets. It's like, I'm glad that you made it. It looks pretty good, but it's still not perfect.
Yeah.
So,
anything else to say about Uncut Gems, or should we go into your number 10?
I thought it was amazing when they had Idina Menzel in. Well, one, that they had
Adele Dazeem.
Yep, it's amazing that they had Adele Dazeem in there, because everyone who loves her from Frozen, and then they see her in this where she's cussing everyone out and fucking like going toe to toe with Sandler. It's great.
I know. She can put on like the bitchiest face imaginable, and I don't know if that's just her face or if she's really good at contorting it, but. Whatever it is, bravo.
I think it. I hate to say it, but I think it's. I just think it's her face. That's why she did so well in Wicked for so many years. But then, like when they have, like, I don't know why this sticks out in my mind, but when she's like at her dad's house and she puts on her bat mitzvah dress, and it's like she still fits in it. I'm like, my God, I wonder if they just did that because they're like, we like Idina Menzel. We're going to make sure everyone knows that she's still thin and fucking hot. I don't know. But, like, that stuck out in my mind to me in the movie. Like, among other things, like the creepy older guy who, like, starts hitting on Adam Sandler's, girlfriend. Yeah. Like, I thought that was going to be so creepy, but they did it in a way that was, like, really funny and worked in her favor. So it's also funny how, like, all of the people who were wronged by him at this point are gonna, like, live really good lives. Like, Kevin Garnett has the stone, his girlfriend has all of that money, and she's, you know, after she finds out he's dead, she's just gonna live with all that money the rest of her life. I'm sure Idina Menzel's character is gonna, like, be able to cash in the insurance money now that her place, that, you know, the place was robbed, so she's probably gonna get a killing on that. So it's funny how it's a happy ending for everyone but Sandler with a
him.
giant hole in his face. And Eric Bogosian, of course.
Yeah.
Poor bastard. Who was all like happy that he made it. He's like, yeah, he finally made it. And then
He's like, holy shit, my crazy brother-in-law was right all along.
he was right. I'm going to get my money back. And nope, you wouldn't have if he lived. Which is why I think they had to kill him. They're like, this is the only way it's going to be satisfying. He has the ultimate high of winning, and it's done.
And then just bop, he's dead.
Boom, dead. So
Yeah.
he would have never been satisfied, man. He would have never. And as soon as he died, we can all relax our own sphincters, and we don't have to go in for colonoscopies. Because Jesus Christ, the last, I would say the last hour and a half of that movie is just like a thrill ride.
Oh,
Tensity.
totally. Because that's the thing. I thought like the last hour totally makes up for how
slow it
okay
starts.
The first, how slow it starts off.
Which I mean, again, it's not like a slow burn start. It just starts off slow.
Yeah, exactly.
My number 10, I'm a basic white guy filmmaker who's not actually white. I picked number 10, The Irishman. I picked it for a couple reasons. It's fun that Scorsese's back in sort of gangster epic operatic form. Mm-hmm. And I read more about the visual effects, which I could definitely go into with you if you're interested. But as good/bad as you think the visual effects are, it's still amazing that they were able to shoot this movie with all of the guys as old as they were and do facial capture on all of the guys without using face cameras or digital markers. Yep. So
that is impressive.
It is. And every single camera was actually 3 cameras that were very close to each other. So imagine a motion picture camera flanked by 2 slightly smaller cameras, and imagine trying to shoot a movie like that. It's a larger rig than the Pace Cameron camera rig, which does 3D, and this is still just shooting a 2D movie. But it's also kind of like one of those steps of like, okay, well, now we have a way, if we want to, of incorporating amazing visual effects into fairly pedestrianly shot movies. So
can you imagine The Irishman in 3D where like the CGI face is floating above the actor's actual face or some shit?
That would have been so great. Well, it's funny because like there's obviously times where you can tell that like they digitally de-aged their face, especially like when De Niro's walking around and is like, hey guys, hey fellow students, I'm 25 years old or I'm 36 years old, and you're like, bro, you look like you're 50.
It's funny, 80-year-old spine
with the 80-year-old hunch and everything. And like I know we've talked about this movie ad nauseum, but visual effects wise, they realized that they had cleaned up everyone's face, but left these 50-year-old faces on 80-year-old turkey necks. So they actually had to go in and digitally, like last minute without any reference footage, they had to go and change their necks digitally. So if they could have fixed the neck issue earlier on, it might have been almost seamless. Even as it is, it's still better than 90% of the de-aging special effects work. Like, it's still really good. It's, I don't know, it feels like it's kind of like number 10 by default. There's some other ones. There's about, like, any of my honorable mentions could have gone in this slot. But I think because it's 3.5 hours and it's on Netflix, so you can literally rewatch it at any time. And it's got so many good actors in it. I didn't know that Al Pacino was older than Robert De Niro, by the way. I always thought that they were like the same age. Yeah, Pacino's like 5 years older than him. And looks about 20 years older than him. So it's bad. Poor Pacino. Poor Pacino. But I mean, we talked ad nauseum about The Irishman, but that's my number 10 spot.
Okay. All right, on to number 9. Number 9 for me is John Wick 3.
Damn, son. Stock down. Why is it number 9?
Well, so obviously it's awesome. There's a lot of great action sequences in it, but I'm getting tired of John Wick at this point. I really wanted the third one to be like the big banger finale to the series, but instead it ended up feeling like part 1 of part 3.
Yeah.
Which I really didn't like. It felt like nothing happened in the movie, whereas the first and second both feel like complete movies. That said, I kind of like how each one is a different flavor of action movie. Like the first one is this very grounded, almost more of a thriller type of deal. The second one is a big, bombastic American-style action movie, and then this one feels more like an Eastern action movie, where it's very few. It's a lot of just hand-to-hand, a lot of like knives and swords and shit. I mean, there are there are two big shootouts, but they seem kind of smaller in a lot of ways than the shootouts in John Wick 2. Obviously, motorcycle ninjas, always a plus in my book. The cameos from the Raid guys, the Assassin and Mad Dog, which good on Chad Stahelski for doing a Raid cameo properly.
Yes.
Screw you, J.J. Abrams, for wasting those guys in Star Wars.
Oh, God.
So they were really cool, and it's, I like that the movie is so blatant about, like, hey, look, it's the guys from the Raid. Look, 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 look.
And look at them upstage Keanu Reeves in this battle.
I know,
God,
I love that.
Keanu Reeves looked
I love how the movie does that.
Yep. And yeah, Keanu Reeves, credit for like being able to be okay being upstaged by much better martial artists.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing about the movie, though, is that the first two movies were grounded enough where it could indulge in some weirdness and it wouldn't feel off. But now I think it's getting to be...
It's gone too far.
It's getting a little too indulgent at this point, where it's like the world in John Wick seems kind of like the real world. Whereas the world in John Wick 3 seems like
the internet's interpretation of John Wick's world.
It seems like a stuntman's world. Like everyone is like tatted to the max and androgynous and chain smoking cigarettes and has like this weird everything is like some weird hipster amalgamation of like old wooden steampunk shit and modern shit. Bronn from Game of Thrones' cameo is strange.
Which one is he? Was he at the very beginning?
He's the goldsmith guy.
Oh, yeah.
Who makes
That's
the
right.
coins,
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Halle Berry was just stunk up the gym in this movie. Like her character added nothing to it, and that the entire portion that was in like North Africa or whatever just felt so. It felt like they needed to fill time or something like that. I was bored by that action sequence. I was bored by all the character stuff in there. Oh yeah.
Oh man.
I was waiting for it to end.
Oh man, I loved all the dogs.
No, it's just it felt so kind of scattershot and detached from any real like stakes or intensity, or there was no focal point of interest. It was just a lot of guys like getting fake attacked by dogs and falling onto rugs, and then occasional shooting. But I love the Iron Chef America guy and his squad of swordsmen. Like they're all cool, and their interactions with John Wick are really cool. The final fight at the end in that kind of glass room is fucking awesome.
All the scenes in New York are still amazing.
Yo, totally. Yeah. Like even the little library fight is great. The knife museum fight is great.
The knife museum fight's awesome. I love it when he constructs a gun. Yeah.
And then fucking motorcycle ninjas. I mean, what can I say?
Hey, John Wick rides a horse.
Yeah. But it's just like, it's weird how every character now is like some ultra tatted, like alternative person. Like even the fucking messenger for the high table, who you would imagine are like proper, like old school, like nice suit kind of gangsters.
Yeah.
Is like a fucking Starbucks barista from hell.
That's funny. That's funny. I actually thought she was better than like the Ruby Rose character in John Wick 2. I was like, okay, they fixed her. Like, yeah, she's still kind of annoying, but she's at least like super intimidating. But
I didn't care for her that much. It was nice to see Angelica Houston though, as putting on her like worst Russian accent.
It was just nice to see they roll her out there and she's like, I need a paycheck.
I need a paycheck.
I need a paycheck.
Good old, John Huston's residuals aren't paying the bills anymore.
She's not getting money from Adam's Family anymore. Or fucking Ever After. It's like, God damn it, Angelica Houston. It was fun seeing her in this, though. I could see her being like, yeah, I like those movies. Yeah, I'll be in this. Mm-hmm. I can also see her being like, I need to find a character in this character. Where do I find the character in this character? Where's her backstory?
Yeah, it was just, I just didn't care much for how the movie felt so... It felt like another entry in a series rather than a movie unto itself.
Fair enough. I actually agree with most of those points, but I also have it higher on my list.
You just love it. You love it just because.
Left hand pride, man. Yeah, I'll talk about it more a little bit later, but okay, number 9,
What's your number
John
9?
Wick 3. My number 9, God, basic white boy filmmaker wannabe. What do you think it is?
Well, is it Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Bingo! Once Upon a Time in Hollywood ends up on my number 9. It could be switched out with almost any of my honorable mentions, and it could be switched out with The Irishman, except I think I had a better time watching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, even though it felt like a movie that had no plot for 2 hours, and then in 45 minutes kind of jumbled a plot out of one scene together. But that, I don't have a problem with that because it's Tarantino. He borrows from French cinema, and French cinema tends to meander as well. The scenes with DiCaprio on set are just really entertaining. Yeah. And then they have you saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Yep.
Okay. So the scene where he's on the ranch and the way that it builds suspense like that is really good. It's sad that Burt Reynolds died before he could shoot that scene. So they had to get in good old Laura Dern's father.
Yeah, Bruce Dern.
Bruce Dern, talk like this, and I like fucking Dakota Fanning in this movie, god damn it. Shut up, Brad Pitt, leave me the fuck alone. So I feel like this movie in particular, like Tarantino went like over the top on Tarantinoisms. Like, whereas the Inglourious Bastards, he was like, this is my masterpiece. And then Django Unchained, which is still one of my favorites of his, is like, okay, this is me trying to be important, but also just having a good time. And then The Hateful Eight was really self-indulgent in a story point of view and like a character point of view. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is like Tarantino doing an impression of what everyone thinks a Tarantino film should be. Because he's got so many fucking feet in there. It's like, oh yeah, you guys thought I had a foot fetish? Well, guess what? Everyone has a foot fetish in this. It's about Hollywood, which he's obsessed with. I mean, I was amazed that they had a Der Wiener Schnitzel in there. I was like, fuck yeah, Der Wiener Schnitzel. It's got, the suspenseful scene, and it's got the really over-the-top action sequences. It's got, especially that ending action sequence is just amazing. Especially when Leonardo DiCaprio walks out and all this scene-chewing glory with a fucking flamethrower and just melts the person's face. But it also falls into all the traps of Tarantino's movies of like, no, even though Rick Dalton was being assaulted, pretty sure he still might have gone to prison for literally burning somebody to death. Like, somehow Brad Pitt has God mode on the entire movie. And the thing with Bruce Lee really pissed me off. I don't know if anyone else feels like this. I think a lot of people do. But if you're telling me that your made-up stunt guy can compete one-on-one with Bruce Lee, that's just a straight-up insult to Bruce Lee's memory. So you can go fuck yourself, movie.
I mean, the story that I heard that bit is based on an interaction that Bruce Lee had with Gene LaBelle, who is famous judo champion, where on the set of Green Hornet, Bruce Lee was sort of famously dismissive of a lot of the stunt guys. Mm-hmm. So, and Gene was brought on to do to play like a bad guy in a really minor guest spot. Yeah. But the stunt guys all kind of knew who he was, and they're like, "Hey, go pick up Bruce Lee," because Gene LaBelle's a big guy, and judo is obviously a lot of grappling. So right. He's got like a gorilla grip. So he ran over, picked up Bruce Lee, and threw him over his shoulder while Bruce Lee wasn't looking, and then ran around the set with him. And Bruce Lee was so pissed. He's like, I'll fucking kill you. Put me down. I'm gonna kick your ass. And then they ended up becoming really good friends. But yeah, I understand why that Bruce Lee scene pissed off a lot of people, because it's like, what's the point of this?
Like, what's the point of having Bruce Lee in it if you're not going to have Bruce Lee literally murder the Manson family? Like that. Exactly. That's what I thought. I thought it was going to be like some sort of like weird movie where it goes into covert ops, where like Bruce Lee and this ragtag gang with like Leonardo DiCaprio have to like infiltrate the Manson like where they're living and stuff, and like kill them all. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, I could get behind that, but no. Yeah. Bruce Lee's just in there to, for 2 scenes and he's gone.
Well, he's in there in the same way that frickin' Damian Lewis plays Steve McQueen for no fucking reason.
Yeah. Although, fuck if he didn't look just like Steve McQueen.
He didn't look a damn thing like Steve McQueen.
You didn't think so? I was like looking at him. I was like,
so.
yeah, I could see how they could make. I could see the Steve McQueen in there. But there were a lot of weird things. Like Emile Hirsch is in the movie, and I was like, it's like Sharon Tate's still like romantically involved with him while also being married to Roman Polanski. And, like, it's a very self-indulgent movie, and I love self-indulgence in movies to a degree. And Tarantino has a very particular style. I don't know if this even made your list. But
no, it didn't.
No.
My big beef with this is like Tarantino movies. The movie as a whole never ever really materializes for most of them.
Yeah.
You watch a Tarantino movie because every scene as a discrete unit is really good and is going to have a couple moments where you're going to go, whoa, that was awesome. You're going to laugh at a great joke, or there'll be some great flashy filmmaking that you can enjoy and sink your teeth into. And for me, this movie didn't really have any of those, except for maybe the ending, like the final fight at the end. Because I didn't laugh much. There wasn't a lot of flashy filmmaking. There wasn't a lot of, I don't remember any lines from the movie.
Yeah.
And there wasn't any moment that made you go, whoa, that was so cool. So it's like I don't mind that it has no plot, because most of his movies don't have much of a plot.
Or his best movies don't.
His best movies don't anyway, yeah. So it's just kind of like I'm watching it because I'm waiting for each scene to transform into something spectacular, and none of them ever did. They're all good, but they never hit the highs that Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Inglourious Bastards, Django Unchained, or Hateful Eight hit.
Yeah.
You know, there's no point where Samuel L. Jackson does a threatening monologue about getting his dick sucked, or there's like the whole scene with Michael Fassbender in Inglourious Bastards, where they're like doing this weird, like, are you for real? Like, are you for real? Are you like a legit German? And like over the number 3 and all that. Mm-hmm. There's nothing like that. There's no Royale with cheese.
Yeah.
There's no, there's no thing where in Kill Bill, where Bill is talking about like Batman and Superman and like the differences between the characters and how that somehow relates to his life and Uma Thurman. Like, there's none of that. It's all good, but there's no moment that is really memorable or that transcends the kind of.
Not even at the ranch.
I didn't care much for the whole ranch sequence.
I thought it went on a little too long, but I thought it was like had the intensity ratcheted up. Not even let's see, the other, like the lead in. Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I guess
like,
maybe that's why it's also not as high on my list, because like it feels like all of the stuff with him filming the TV show, what does that have to do with anything that happens afterwards, except that it made him realize he needs to go to Italy and, basically become a not as good Clint Eastwood.
Well, and the other thing, it's like, again, it's a Tarantino movie, so I don't care if one scene has nothing to do with anything else in the entire movie. Yeah. It just has to be good. It has to be entertaining enough to justify its own existence. And, the movie is just, like, it's all good, but nothing really grabbed me. It's like, the beginning of The Hateful Eight, like the first half hour it's all good stuff, but it's just, it's kind of slow and not very memorable. Yeah. And it's only when Samuel L. Jackson confronts Bruce Dern and like just cranks things up that the movie really takes off.
Yeah, you're talking about the first hour of that movie.
Oh yeah, the first hour of that Hateful Eight. The first hour of Hateful Eight is good, but not particularly great. Yeah. It only gets great when Samuel L. Jackson really gets going, and then everyone else kind of jumps in and takes it up another level. And the entirety of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood felt like the first hour of Hateful Eight.
Yeah. I mean, again, I like I like all the, but see, it also comes down to preferences in the sense of like, Academy voters love it because they love movies about Hollywood, and this movie is very much about Hollywood and like the making of like a movie star and like making of a TV star, and like it's kind of an angle not seen very often, and I love all of the TV stuff, but I do agree with you that overall it's a little bit lacking in any sort of like satisfying moments, because even the moments where like Brad Pitt is literally just murdering everyone, murdering all of those Manson people, it still ends up being like, all right, but we've seen Tarantino do this, but okay, I guess it's better because it's the Mansons, and like the dog chewing the guy's nuts is amazing. But I also like a lot of his quiet spots. I like the fact that like I don't know. I like a lot of the small character stuff, and this movie felt really like just a bunch of little vignettes of these characters. Now, with that said, a good movie does that make? It's number 9. It's better than some other stuff.
At least it's on your list.
It made it to my list, but again, it's weird because it's pretty interchangeable from a bunch of other movies. That's why the top 10 was hard for me this year.
All right.
Number 8.
Number 8?
Yes, sir.
For me, that would be 1917.
Ooh.
So I really liked 1917, even though I was kind of worried that I would dislike its own sense of self-importance. But it's really good, and I think it's one of those movies where the plot or the story is pretty threadbare, but it's more about how that story is executed. And I know like the whole it's done in one shot thing, or it's edited to appear as though it's done in one shot.
They at least had a credit for an editor on this movie, unlike Birdman.
I don't know. They didn't credit an editor on Birdman?
They didn't.
What? That's insane. Because in Birdman there are actual cuts.
There are
that are very obvious.
Yes.
They're not like hidden or anything. It's a normal cut.
Yeah, like the montage at the end when like the sky is falling down. Yeah.
But it's that all the one shot crap. It's really interesting. So especially because Roger Deakins is a cinematographer who loves framing and composition. Like that's kind of his bread and butter.
Yeah.
And he doesn't like he doesn't seem to like moving the camera without a clear motivation to do so. So most of the movies where he does his best work, it's a lot of static, very well composed shots, and you cut between them. I'm gonna disagree with you on that in one thing, because especially recently, most of his movies, while a lot of the shots are framed perfectly, there is always a little bit of subtle movement, either a small push in, or like the camera dollies down. There is a lot of subtle,
but it's all very
movement.
Subtle. Yeah, it's all very
exactly.
Subtle.
It's a lot of the movement that he does. Like I said, it's very simple and it's very clearly motivated. And I didn't mean he just locks it down on a tripod, but it's like he has this very immaculate composition and then uses either focus pulling or a slight change of distance or a little bit of movement to redirect your attention from one part of the composition to another part of the composition.
Right.
Typically. I mean, obviously he'll do more extravagant stuff when it's called for, but that's kind of that's like the base of his style.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting that he has to do everything in one take now, or all these really elaborate long takes. So he has to do several of these little, his compositions within a single shot, and then move between the compositions instead of cutting, which is one hell of a fucking challenge, But he did it. Him and Sam Mendes and the crew and the actors and everyone, they fucking did it, and they did it really well. It's also interesting in the sense of, the whole thing that makes movies unique is editing. So when you take that out of the picture, it almost becomes another art form in a weird way.
Right.
And editing is, in a sense, the ability to manipulate time. And like filmmakers who are obsessed with film as an idea, like Tarkovsky and Christopher Nolan, they're obsessed with time as well. All their movies are about time in one way or another. And I could almost see, like, if Tarkovsky made a war movie, it would look kind of like 1917. But at the same time, I don't think Sam Mendes has the same interests that he does.
No.
Because the way that this plays out is instead of Tarkovsky's long takes are more about, like, experiencing the film in real time and kind of playing with the idea of how you experience the passage of the events in the movie. Sam Mendes is almost, because he's like a theater guy too, it almost turns into a play at various points. It feels very theater-ish, especially when there's more than one character on screen at the same time.
Right.
Which I thought was interesting, because it's like the one place you could never stage a play is in the middle of a war.
Right.
But they kind of make it work because the characters have to travel so far across these big old sets.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the movie is just, walk and talk, where it's this very theatrical banter between them. And that in a war movie is a really cool idea, and I like the way they pulled it off. And just on the whole, like the set piece in the ruined city with all the flares is just so fucking gorgeous. Like,
yeah, it is. It is.
I was blown away when I saw that. I'm like, good lord. Roger Deakins is a shoo-in for cinematography this year, I feel like.
Yeah, it felt like he was tired of, what's his name, Lubeski getting all of the awards, and he's like, fuck you, I can do it, and I can do it better, and this is where I'm proving it.
It's like, I will put together a sequence that is so mind-bogglingly beautiful that I have to win this time. But yeah, so it was, the whole movie is pretty gorgeous, but that, especially just it was so just awe-inspiring on a visual level. There's not much I don't like about the movie. It's really good.
I'm surprised it's so low then.
Well, there's some other stuff that's a little more resonant. This is like, the story is, again, like I said, it's pretty thin.
Yeah.
There are parts where it tries to be like, this is important, or it feels like it's straining to be meaningful. Like, anytime cherry blossoms show up,
mm-hmm.
it feels like beauty in the middle of war. Like,
I was gonna say, the cherry blossoms show up, and all of a sudden it cuts to the handheld recording of the bag floating. This is the most beautiful thing ever. Like, Sam.
Exactly. Like, that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And the movie has its fair share of moments that are like that, where it's just like, I could, cut it back a little bit. I like all of the little cameos of various famous British actors.
Me too. Yeah.
Even though, like, it's got Benedict Cumberbatch in it for like 2 seconds.
Yeah, but he's so funny in it. It's like because he goes in and you're like, yeah, Benedict Cumberbatch, he's gonna make this awe-inspiring speech. He's gonna blah 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 blah, and he's like, fuck off! Like, good on you, Benny. Good on you.
Yeah, it's just it's a technical marvel. It's a really well-made film. It's one of those things where a lot of the self-indulgent technical trickery that it does works, and it doesn't call too much attention to itself, and I think it makes the movie better rather than detracting from it.
And most importantly, it's in service to the story.
Yes. Also, when the one guy gets stabbed,
oh fuck, dude,
that scene is so sad.
So
and it's
good.
like, it's so good though.
Did you? So I have a question for you. You saw the trailers before the film, right? Like,
Yep.
You saw the trailer for the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Based off of the trailer, I had a feeling that he was gonna die.
I didn't. I mean, based off the trailer, the trailer makes it look like Benedict Cumberbatch is the villain somehow. Even though he's in the movie for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean,
it also the trailer. I think
he kind of is.
Not really. Because he doesn't resist. He just, like, as soon as he gets the message, he's like, all right, call off the attack.
Yeah, as soon as he reads it, he calls it off. But the whole time, there's this impending feeling of, like, he's going to ignore it. He's going to ignore it. He's going to ignore it. And like,
well, yeah, because, like,
right.
Mark Strong is like, some men just want the fight.
Yeah, fucking Mark Strong. God damn it. The real villain of the piece.
I know.
You gotta get there sooner, because if you don't, he's going to kill everyone.
Exactly.
He's, like, twisting his Merlin mustache.
So, like, that was weird. It's weird that the trailer tries to play off of Dunkirk a lot, because there is like a ticking clock element, but it plays out very differently because it's all in these incredibly long takes. And
the ticking clock is built into the fact that it's one long shot. Quote unquote.
And the other thing that's interesting is, like, the movies, both this and Dunkirk, are polar opposites in terms of their approach to time. Mm-hmm. Because, this movie is all about, like, stretch everything out. You're with them for every moment, no matter how mundane. Even though, obviously, it compresses like a day into 2 hours.
Right.
Whereas, Dunkirk, it compresses the entire film onto a single point. It's cutting across every timeline all the time, backward and forward, layering events on top of each other. So it's polar opposites, but I think they both do very well with what they are trying to achieve.
I agree. I know I'm going to get flack for it because I have it in a different spot on my list. But the entire time I was watching 1917, I was thinking about Dunkirk and how it compares.
Yeah.
Because but yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what you have on the rest of your list. If this is, if you give it such high praise for number 8. Quick question for you: what's your rate? What rating do you give it?
I'd give it like a solid shiny and chrome.
Okay, interesting.
All right, your number 8.
My number 8. Oh God, you're gonna hate this. My number 8 is Avengers Endgame.
Oh, fuck you.
Hey, at least it wasn't Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, that's true.
It's weird.
That's true.
The thing about Avengers Endgame, is that it was close to my number. It was close to my top. It was in my top 5 of the half year mark, and it was close to number 1. It was actually number 2. And
Well, that's the interesting thing about this year is that like the first half was pretty shit,
yeah, well,
and then in like the last 3 months, a lot of good stuff's come out.
yeah, I agree that the first half was kind of shitty, especially looking back through the list to make sure that my top 10 was correct. The thing there was one other movie that kind of like always floated to that almost floated into the top 10. But Avengers Endgame, you have 10 years of build up to this one moment. You have to execute this moment perfectly, and they do about as good a job as they possibly can. I didn't love Infinity War. I thought Infinity War kind of just like was a bunch of wheels spinning. But Avengers Endgame, so like Infinity War, it ends with Thanos snapping and taking out 50% of the population. How Thanos survived that, I don't know, because you'd think like the universe would have some sort of sick joke and be like
50-50 odds he would snap himself.
Yeah, exactly. Like okay, Thanos, like clearly you don't care about complete and equal justice. So the movie begins with them finding Thanos, and well, actually the movie begins with Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye seeing his family completely disappear because 50% shot, right? Am I right? Mm-hmm. Fucking plot convenience. So that's obviously going to set up like, okay, Hawkeye's back after not being in Infinity War. But literally within the first half hour of the movie, of this 3-hour movie, Thor goes and chops Thanos' head off. And I was like, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They find Thanos. They go down to see him, and they learn that he has snapped the Infinity Stones he's snapped to destroy all the Infinity Stones. So, primer on a bit of the plot. So, he snapped, 50% gone, snapped, no one can come back because no more Infinity Stones. So, they're talking about it, blah, 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 blah. All of a sudden, you just see Thanos' head get cut completely off, roll on the floor, and then they're like, Thor, what the hell did you do? And he's like, I fucking went for the head, and walks out. And that, I was like, fuck yes, dude, that's amazing. So then it flash forwards 5 years, and people are still not over the fact that half the population is gone. Realistic? I don't know. I don't really think so. I think they needed to set it like sooner, like 2 years maybe. But 5 years, people are starting to get over this kind of thing. And then convoluted Ant-Man logic, he can go back in time. They go back in time to find the Infinity...
He can shrink so small, he can go back in time.
They explain it as the, quote, quantum realm. So the when you're smaller than an atom, you can go through time. And then they get Tony Stark to figure it out. They go through some convoluted mess. In this time, Tony Stark has married Pepper Potts. He has a daughter, quote, Stakes. But Tony Stark goes back to the Avengers to help them out because he just loves Peter Parker so much. Because who doesn't, right? Fuck, whatever. So they figure out time travel. And then the way that they get all of the fan service in is that they say, okay, we've all experienced the effects of the Infinity Stones at different times through the movies. If we go back to the first Avengers movie, there are 3 Infinity Stones at the same time. I won't explain why. If you really cared that much, Then they go into Thor, the Dark World, and then... So there's a lot of lip service paid to the movies that people don't like, because there's an awful lot of references to the Age of Ultron and to Thor, the Dark World. And then in this time, Thor becomes really fat. And so it's funny watching Chris Hemsworth with this giant digital gut, like walking around and stuff. But he...
Like a digital gut, not even a fat suit?
They have him in a fat suit for some of it, and then they have him in a digital... Like they add a digital... paunch to him in some scenes. It's pretty bad. But then they get the Infinity Stones. But through convoluted means, Thanos back in 2015 finds out that they're going after the Infinity Stones. Thanos in 2015 comes into the future to fight them. Big war scene. But luckily, Thor is able to snap everyone back into existence. So you have the scene where like they're like, oh, everyone's back, and then the Avengers are all fighting Thanos, and they're kind of winning, kind of losing, and then all of a sudden you hear Falcon, who was snapped out, and he's like, on your left, Cap, and all the people who have been like,
okay, wait, but like, why do you like it? I understand that this is a synopsis
Yeah,
of the entire
right.
3-hour movie, but why do you like it?
Because they get the core crew back together. They have the 6 Avengers, and they play off of each other really well. They do fan service, and some of it is excessive. Like, for some reason, they found a way to bring Robert Redford back into the movie. So some of it is excessive, but it's also amazing that they're able to pull something like this off. It kind of reminds me of when they had the first Superman movie, and it was amazing how in that first Superman movie, they had so much star power coming together for one singular event. And this...
Like the Richard Donner Superman?
Yeah, like the Richard Donner Superman, like Gene Hackman as the main bad guy, and, you know... That's really the only thing I can think of off of the original Superman. But like, it also made you believe a man could fly. And I got really tired of big epic war scenes at the end of superhero movies where the color palette is drab and boring. And this definitely has it. But every moment that they need to execute effectively, they execute it effectively. They do a good job of tying up all of the loose ends so that if you really don't want to jump back into the Marvel universe, you don't have to. And it is a very nice... It's a very good goodbye to a lot of characters that if you'd been watching the movies since 2008, it's a good send-off for them. With a couple of caveats. And then on like a fan level, Brainy Hulk is hilarious. Then seeing they have like this one take, quote unquote, of like, I think I told you about this, of
Ronan.
Yep. And I like that scene there. The scene between Hawkeye and Black Widow, when one of them has to sacrifice themselves, that is just done really well, where they're able to kind of synthesize the emotional effects that the characters are going through and represent it physically. And like that scene in the whole movie, that's the best scene in the movie, is Scarlett Johansson, Jeremy Renner fighting over who gets to die. They both want to sacrifice themselves. And then they realize that it's okay to have no women in the movie for 45 minutes, so they kill off Scarlett Johansson. So I like the execution of it. And I like the fact that in a 3-hour movie, it doesn't feel like 3 hours. They break it up into a way that's like, it's really effective. The storytelling is pretty efficient for the most part, and all of the character scenes are really good. And again, at the end of the day, it's an excellent ending to everything. It's almost as good as like, it almost hits like a Lord of the Rings good of an ending. It's what Star Wars wanted to be so badly. So, number 7.
Number 7, so this is a bit of revisionist history, but number 7 is actually Ford v Ferrari.
Oh my God. Wait, hold on. Hold up, dude. You know what my number 7 is?
What?
Ford v Ferrari. Why is it revisionist
hilarious.
history for you?
Because I think I gave it a low shiny and chrome originally, but
did.
in that time it has risen, in my opinion.
Really?
I think so, just because like the stuff I don't like about it, I still don't like about it. But the rate, God, every scene where Christian Bale is behind the wheel of a car is so fucking good that it just it sticks out in my mind as it's like just a hair better than 1917.
That's
and
hilarious.
Just a hair worse than the movie I put ahead of it.
We didn't talk about this originally with Ford v Ferrari. I think the movie has gotten better in my mind as well. I would say it's probably at a low shiny and chrome now. Like, it's definitely like a 9 of 10. We didn't talk at all about how they visually represented the brakes burning out. Like, all of the little devices they use in the movie to kind of communicate to the audience what's going on is very video gamey, but it works very well. So like in the beginning when Matt Damon is kind of getting into like that golden area, that golden zone in Le Mans, and it's getting all blurry and stuff. Like all of the visual representation. We talked a lot about how effective it was from a technical standpoint, but also from an emotional standpoint. Like really subjectively putting you in the position is just fantastic.
Oh, I like the character journey that Ken Miles has over the course of the movie is also so well done and so well integrated into all of the all the fun stuff, all the fun action packed parts of it.
Now I'm fresh off of editing the Ford v Ferrari podcast. Have you you still really hate all of the Ford boardroom scenes and stuff like that? You still feel like the movie it detracts from the movie?
Yes.
Yeah. We will agree to disagree on that then. You know what's funny is I think the original title for the movie was going to be Le Mans 66.
Which is its international title.
And it's such a better title than Ford v Ferrari to me. Even though Ford v Ferrari as a title is a much better synopsis of what the story is actually about.
Well, I think Ford v Ferrari, you say that to Americans and they know what that is. You say Le Mans 66, they're like, what's Le Mans? What's Le Mans?
Who's Le
66?
Mans? And why are we talking? Why are there 66 of Le Mans? I guess so, but maybe it's just my preference for like prestige type movie titles. I don't need my prestige type racing movie to sound like a rejected DC Comics movie.
To sound like the subtitle of like a late 90s, early 2000s like WWE type event.
Yeah, or like a court case.
Like UFC 68, Ford v Ferrari.
All right, we're going to be trash talking. There's no trash talking in this movie. We're going to be fucking people up. You don't see anyone get fucked up in the movie. You see people die, but you don't see anyone get fucked up. Yeah.
You don't even see anyone die. You see
that's true. You just
someone
see,
die off screen. You see a explosions where someone dies.
Yeah. I mean, I told you at the time, I think it's going to my top 10, and it stayed there. It stuck.
Yeah, same for me.
It's just a really good, really well executed movie. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. All right. On to number 6?
Yeah, number 6.
So number 6 for me is Waves.
Ooh, I did not see Waves.
So, I loved It Comes at Night, even though the marketing was very, very misleading for that movie. And the marketing for Waves is also very misleading because it makes it look like some like shitty Moonlight ripoff, but it's nothing like Moonlight at all whatsoever.
What's it about? Give me a non-Matthew explaining Avengers Endgame synopsis of it.
Okay, so it's about a black family who basically a series of events happen with their son, partly just accident and partly due to his own kind of self-destructive nature that causes a major tragedy to happen. And then that's like the first half of the movie. And then the second half of the movie is about his younger sister dealing with the fallout of that.
That's right. Okay. You might have explained that to me before because I remember reading a little bit about that. Okay.
Yeah. But it's really good. Like it's hyper style. It's one of the It might be the most stylish movie I've seen this year.
Ooh.
It's extremely stylish. Like, it plays around a lot with, color, cinematography, music, editing. Like, nothing is off limits for how this movie sort of constructs itself. Which is cool to see a filmmaker kind of play around with all these different things, even though the movie itself is a very serious and dramatic movie. Like, all the performances are really good. It's very, like, the story itself is very poignant. All the characters are really well fleshed out. They're really well acted. It is told in a pretty unconventional way because it essentially has one main character for the first half and a different main character for the second half.
Yeah.
But they find a way to make it work really well. One thing I noticed is that I think the movie got a good amount of flack because it's like written and directed by a white guy, but it's about a black family.
Mm-hmm.
And it's done in a way that you could almost swap out the black family with a white one, and I don't think the particulars of the movie would change too much. There's a handful of details that I think would be different, but the way it's played, it wouldn't change a ton, and I think that also pissed people off. But I don't give a shit. It's a great movie.
I was gonna make a Cosby Show joke there, but I refrained. Interesting. It'll have to go on my list. I remember seeing a lot of ads for it. And I wonder if I saw it, if it would make it to my list, but I did not get the chance to see it. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it could. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like sort of dramas are the one genre of movie where you never know how people are going to take them.
Yeah.
You know, you never know if someone's going to love it or hate it or just kind of be whatever about it. But yeah, I thought this movie was great. And again, a big selling point for me was just the filmmaking itself, because it is so fucking stylish, and it is so. I mean, I think it banks a lot on kind of similar media that's come out in recent years, especially focusing on kind of black people living in suburban places like Moonlight or even like Euphoria on HBO. But I think this doesn't. I think a lot of the stylistic, for whatever reason, I think when people seem to take on that subject matter, they give themselves license to be a lot more flamboyant stylistically. Like Moonlight, I thought was incredibly boring from a story standpoint, but Barry Jenkins himself and his technical brilliance is what made the movie interesting. Just because his style of making movies is so lively and so, again, he doesn't restrict himself to what is considered kind of the standard way to do things.
Right.
And Waves is the same way. In that it's the same in a very different way. It's the same in that it's another filmmaker who gives himself license to try really wild stuff in service of telling the story his way.
I always like highly stylized movies until they go too far. But well, you know what I mean, like where it gets to the point where it's like, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but well, I mean, Spring Breakers, it's like, okay. All right, I don't need it, but like as long as it's in service to the story. Hey, I mean, you sold a ticket. I wanted to see it before, never got out to it. Wasn't sure if it was released in my area. I should have been better about it and gone and seen it. So
I mean, I was kind of skeptical on it, so I just said, hey, what the hell? I'll give it a shot. I mainly saw it just because I really like It Comes at Night.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see, like, okay, well, this guy he made another movie. It looks completely out of step with It Comes at Night, which almost makes it more interesting.
Right.
And we can get into that a little bit later.
With another movie that you have on your list.
Yeah, with another movie I have on my list. But anytime, I've seen one movie from a particular director, and it's really good, and then they do something completely different, I'm almost more interested in seeing the follow-up.
Right.
So yeah. What's number 6 for you?
Yeah, number 6 for me is a retread of what you had. This is John Wick 3. It was actually my favorite movie of the first half of the year, which wasn't very difficult. I actually thought it would be much higher. I thought about putting it in my number 1 slot just because, like, ridiculous story aside, all of the elements of it work to me really well as far as like action and adventure. I still don't think it's as good as far as like a conceptual movie as John Wick 2 was. I think John Wick 2 is still my favorite. I know a lot of people love John Wick.
It's definitely my favorite.
But John Wick 3 has the best individual sequences in the series by far. Because if you look at John Wick Chapter 2, you have the opening car chase that leads into the garage where he's fighting a bunch of people. And then there's a huge break for about 45 minutes, and which is the cool part where he's getting all suited up, and we all love montages like that. But then you have action where he's like going through the ruins, which I think is good but could have been better, especially because the lighting is really harsh in it, so it's kind of hard to tell what's going on in some of the sequences. Gets back to New York, and of course all the New York stuff is always good in these movies. Whereas with John Wick Chapter 3, it seemed like a reaction to what people think they like about John Wick, in that we're going to take our action scenes, we're going to make them more over the top. We're going to make this stuff even better. You love the world of John Wick, we're going to expand on it a lot more. And unfortunately it suffers from the case of like it suffers from the J.J. Abrams effect, where like the more they reveal about the world, the less interesting the world becomes. Whereas like
Yes.
before, when it's like, oh, the members of the High Table, as soon as you reveal a member of the High Table, all of a sudden, no, unless it's like, unless they bring Laurence Olivier back from the dead, or like have Omar
It's
Sharif.
like Jeremy Irons.
Yeah, like that would have been great if it was like someone like Jeremy Irons. But unfortunately, like the guy they chose, I like him as an actor, but like, no one knows who the fuck this guy from the High Table is.
No.
So it's always
No,
gonna
the one who sits above the table.
Yeah, but Keanu Reeves is still awesome in the movie. I agree with you. I agree with almost all the points you made about like this part feels, superfluous. Halle Berry's character, it feels like they put her in there just to have Halle Berry in there. But I do love that scene where they're trying to get out. I think they also had that in there because Keanu Reeves was like, look, I can only do so many action scenes. We need one where I can dial it back. And so that's why it focused so much on her. And I'm glad that as soon as that scene was over, she was gone, because the problem with that scene was it was distracting and that, John Wick wasn't the main character. But they don't spend a lot. It's paced action-wise, action scene to action scene. I think it's paced a little bit better than John Wick 2, which had that big lull, and it's paced a little bit better than the first John Wick movie, which had action scenes that were necessary for the story but weren't particularly like interesting, like when he's being tortured and Willem Dafoe saves him, or when he goes to the church that has the bank underneath and he burns that. Like I remember those because I hate those scenes. Whereas in this, like you said, there's ninjas on motorcycles. They have the most creative fight scenes as well, even though I don't think it's the best shot movie. I think John Wick Chapter 2 is better shot, but it's still really fun, and I can kind of ignore a lot of the plot problems and just kind of sit back and enjoy it. With that said, now that we're going on to John Wick 4, it makes me think of the Death Wish franchise, a franchise which I never watched, but thought that by the time they get to number 4, it felt excessive. So I'm very nervous about Chapter 4. Whatever it ends up being. And I think you did say it best. It feels like a young adult series where they're like, oh, Chapter 1 is tight, Chapter 2 is tight, and we're going to split Chapter 3 into 2 movies.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's been young adulted. So, but it's still, still enough technical marvel in the movie that I think it's... I mean, a dog runs up a fucking wall, and it's not a digital dog. So... And then I feel, as a quick side note, I feel bad for the poor bastard who had to remove Keanu Reeves' left ring finger in every scene where his left hand is in. Like, that's just...
Oh my gosh.
Imagine doing that for an entire movie now. That poor bastard. All right, I have to...
Yeah, that sounds pretty painful. So, on to number 5 then?
On to number 5.
All right, so for me, number 5 is Ad Astra.
Okay. I figured it would make your list.
Yeah, oh, totally. I love that movie. Yeah, I mean, I think I talked about it to death on our podcast about it, which if you haven't heard, you should totally download on iTunes.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
Right
Wait,
now.
wrong thing. Yeah. But yeah, download it, leave a comment. Very nice intro to plug.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Ad Astra is fantastic. And yeah, it was a very clear number 5, I think, for me. What about you?
My number 5 is Knives Out. I've seen it twice now.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it made...
Okay, so why do you love it so much?
I don't... It's just a movie that I really like. I like the tone of it. I like the texture. I like the feel. I like all of the actors. I think doing kind of their best maybe comedic work. Like, I think, for example, Don Johnson does a really good job in the movie. There's obviously a couple of actors that I feel like, it would have been nice to see them, or, I wish they kind of played it differently. But I love how corny Daniel Craig is and how much of like a pompous buffoon he is. Like, he goes on this tangent about like donut holes and like the donut hole is actually whole, but now there's a hole in the donut hole. And so I know that a lot of the comedy kind of fell flat for you, but I enjoyed a lot of that. I enjoyed the fact that...
Well, the donut hole line is one of the bits of comedy that I did really like.
Yeah. It was weird. The second time I saw it, like, I was kind of leading the laughter because, like, as soon as a joke would be said, I was like, oh, yeah, that's funny. So, like, there were a lot of little moments like that I think stand out. I like the fact that I like good mystery movies that upon rewatching it reveals something new. And early on, like, if you're paying attention to the movie, like apparently I wasn't, He even says that Ana de Armas's character is the hole in the center of this circle, and she's represented like that as being the only person who's shot with her face in the center of the hole, and how that works in the movie as like she needs to reveal something. She is the key that we need. We just need to wait for her to reveal it. So it's really cleverly done. I like Steve Yeldon's cinematography. I don't know. I just really liked it. It was a fun throwback type movie. Daniel Craig was hilarious in it throughout. And I, kind of like in Logan Lucky, how Daniel Craig is kind of being a cornball throughout the whole movie. Like it's just a lot of fun to see Daniel Craig being a cornball.
Okay.
We were fast on our number 5s. Let's go to number 4.
Yeah.
My number 4 is going to be controversial. I know. I already know it's going to be controversial. Yep.
Okay. Well, what the hell did you pick? Like The King or something? All right. Number 4 for me is Marriage Story.
Nice pull.
So yeah, Marriage Story was probably the pleasant surprise of the year. It's a movie I did not expect very much from. I thought it would be like a boring, like one of those boring grown-up movies where it's just like, oh, our marriage isn't working out because we're both shitty for various reasons. Sad. But it's actually really good. It's really, really good.
It is.
I love like the opening and how it starts off with them like reading their letters of like what they like about each other, and then it like undercuts that where they're in their like couples therapy or whatever, or the divorce. I don't know if it's couples therapy or like arbitration or something. And then Scarlett Johansson's like, well, I don't want to read what I wrote. It's gonna sound stupid, even though we just heard it right now. And I also like how those letters come back into play at the end. I love all of the extended just monologues and dialogues that everyone has throughout the movie. The performances are great. And I like kind of the way that a lot of the very serious stuff is played in a sort of tragicomic way. Adam Driver, I think, definitely steals the show, though. It's weird to think that him and Scarlett Johansson are the same age.
I think he's a year older than her.
He's
older
practically
than her,
the same age.
Yeah, it is weird to think that because he's only been relevant for the past maybe 5-6 years, and she's been on the radar for 15, 16.
Forever. Yeah. It's interesting, like, how many shots it takes at LA while continually glamorizing New York City.
Yeah.
Which, if there's anything, the one connection, the few connections I've been able to make across the Noah Baumbach movies I have seen are that they always seem to be about like artist types. They always seem to be about New York, and they glamorize New York at the expense of every other place on earth.
Is he a New Yorker? Because I know the Adam Driver character was inspired by him, and the Scarlett Johansson character was inspired by Jennifer Jason Leigh. Yeah.
I mean, I would assume he's a New Yorker because The Squid and the Whale takes place in New York. Frances Ha takes place in New York. And, this is about New Yorkers in Los Angeles. I really like the dynamic between, Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver and then their divorce lawyers.
Yeah.
Where, like, you have Laura Dern, who plays just, like, a full metal bitch. And then Ray Liotta, who plays her male equivalent. He is also a full metal bitch. And then in between, there's like Alan Alda, who seems just completely hapless. Like he's just kind of at the stage where he's ready to roll over and die.
Yeah. I think we should take the deal, but the deal is terrible for me. I think we should take the deal anyway. But you said we could go here. I like that because it's the contrast of like Ray Liotta is like, this is what you need to hear, and this is what we need to do. And then Alan Alda's like, oh, well, I'm more in your price range, and, I think we can do that. We might be able to get away with this. And, yeah, we might be able to help you out with that. When really it's just like, nope, you should have gone with Ray. I love Ray Liotta in this movie. I was like, that's one of the reasons I wanted to watch it was because I found out that Ray Liotta was the cutthroat, divorce lawyer. I was like, fuck yeah.
Well, Ray Liotta and Laura Dern both, again, they do a great job as their various side characters.
Oh, yeah.
And their dynamic is hilarious.
Yes. Well, and Laura Dern is really good in this. Like it.
Yeah.
Like in.
Well, because
Yeah. Go ahead.
well, it's funny because Laura Dern is so like evil, but she has like this like like,
She's evil coated in honey.
Coated in honey, yeah. And then Ray Liotta is like kind of he's just like this angry bulldog. He's just like, fuck you, I hate you. You're I'll destroy you.
God damn it, I haven't had my cigarettes in 5 years. I'm going to kill everyone in here in the courtroom right now with my litigation. Like, yeah.
I haven't smoked a cigarette in 5 years because this fucking Chantix. I'm ready to kill someone.
Dude, I fucking love Ray Liotta. Like, yeah, man. Fuck yeah, Ray Liotta, dude. It's sad that that's my take. Well, it didn't make my top 10. But it could easily,
Really?
Yeah, it could have easily been. It could have easily. This is why it was tough for me because it could have easily been exchanged with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and The Irishman. I could have put any of those. I could have switched Marriage Story out for any of those. The only reason I don't. So Marriage Story has the scene that I probably watch and rewatch over and over, which is when Adam Driver starts singing "Being Alive." It's. Oh my God, for whatever reason, I just love that scene because it's like the culmination of like, he's had a really hard divorce, but he still loves his wife, but he also can't stand his wife. And the song kind of exemplifies all of the exhaustion that he's gone through. And it's one of those things where it's like, they probably could have put a Creative Commons stamp on that because they're like, fair use. Like, well, we're reinterpreting this song in a new dimension. And he sings it really well too. Like Adam Driver, who can do everything, can also now sing Stephen Sondheim really well. So that's my favorite moment in the movie. But overall, like the whole movie is good because it immediately kind of hooks you, and no scene is uninteresting, which is really hard to do. Even though most of the movie is shot pretty basically, there's not a lot of complex camera movements. It feels almost like it's shot like a Woody Allen movie.
Well, that's the interesting point, is no scene is uninteresting in a genre that is inherently the least interesting.
Yes.
Which is like family drama.
Yep. If there's one part I don't like, it's when the inspector comes over, the family counselor or whatever comes over.
Oh,
and he has to make
the child like welfare inspector.
Yeah, just because the child welfare inspector character is just like from another planet. Like that's the only thing that kind of like, because that's a great
too like cartoonish.
Yeah, just like kind of sitting there with like these big bug eyes. They could have put a CG insert of a person in there, and it would have felt more realistic. That's really the only, which is bad because that's one of the most pivotal scenes in the movie.
Well, again, I kind of like how some of that stuff like is played a little comedically. Like even when like the great argument between Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver in Adam Driver's new apartment. Yeah. It has like, sort of very serious or almost tragic beats, and it has comedic beats, and it goes between them with such dexterity. It's really impressive.
I've never seen a Noah Baumbach movie, but Marriage Story, I was like, maybe I should take a look at a couple of them. But I don't know, man. If he's anything like his Adam Driver character, it just seems a little too pretentious for me. Which is bad because, well, you'll see going on pretentious.
What was I going to say? I think it's also interesting how throughout the movie, all of the characters have like this well-developed internal psychology that they're then completely unable to communicate to anybody else in their life. Like, Scarlett Johansson has these very clear wants and very clear things that she is pissed about or that she feels hurt about. And Adam Driver, on the opposite end, has very clear wants, very clear things that he's upset about or is hurt about. And they cannot get any of those across to each other. And then you have kind of adding to this social confusion is Laura Dern, who's very like, oh yeah, I'm here to help. I'm here to make this as easy as possible. But she's just trying to like fuck everybody over.
Yeah.
And essentially bury Adam Driver out of her own kind of like just hatred of men in general.
See, I didn't read it quite like that, but I can definitely see that being a read of her character.
Well, but like her whole thing at the very end, like her last scene is like, we got the 60-40 split.
Yeah. Or 50-50 and we could probably get 60-40.
No, she said I got 60-40 and then Scarlett Johansson's like, I wanted 50-50. And she's like, well, I didn't want him bragging to his friends that he got 50-50, you know. It's just like she seems to hate men so much. She wants to go out of her way to fuck them over.
Yeah.
Because like it's the other thing. Like Scarlett Johansson wants their divorce to go a certain way, and then Laura Dern talks her into going to war.
Right.
Or helps her talk herself into going to war. And then same thing kind of happens on Adam Driver's side, where he kind of plays he just sort of takes it as it comes. He's very passive. You know, he brings in Alan Alda, who is just kind of a limp fish. And then at a certain point, after being sort of twisted around enough, he's like, you know what, fuck it. I'm getting Ray Liotta. Mm-hmm. All my life, I wanted to be a gangster, and now I will be.
Now I'm hiring one. It does beg the question on this movie, would they have been okay if they had done just arbitration out of the gate? And
well, I think the idea is that they probably would have, but the faults that led to their marriage falling apart also led to their divorce becoming way worse than it could have been. I mean, the other thing that shows up a lot in, it seems to show up in Noah Baumbach movies, is divorce, because The Squid and the Whale is about a divorce, and the main character is the eldest son of this like artist couple, and the whole movie's kind of about how the parents weaponize their kids against each other for leverage. Which happens in this as well. Yeah. Because both parents try to use their son against the other, not only from a legalistic perspective, but from a psychological perspective, where, you know, they're trying to alienate the other person from the kid so that they can gain greater leverage or kind of put the other person behind a little bit. Yeah. It's a great movie.
It is.
It's really, really good.
It is really good. Because minutes before we started, I was rearranging my list. So, you're going to give me a lot of shit about this. Number 4 is The Lighthouse.
Aw, man.
Yeah, it dropped. So, I will say I liked Parasite better than The Lighthouse.
Yeah, I remember that.
The Lighthouse and my number 3 movie are also really close together. They're really... It's almost like 2, 3, and 4 can be interchanged for me at any given time or any given time. Mm-hmm. And it's just... I don't know what it is. I don't know why, but like I really like The Lighthouse, but I haven't had the desire to go back and like delve back into it. Whereas like with Parasite and my number 3 movie, I'm constantly thinking about them and constantly analyzing them. The one thing I'll say is that if The Lighthouse had a chance at winning Best Cinematography, I don't think it's going to win it anymore.
No, not with 1917.
Not with 1917. But it's still amazing. It's still such a unique movie, and it's such an incredible experience. Especially that ending is just amazing. But but it's so good, but it's also just a little bit not quite my thing enough that it kind of dropped a couple of spaces. Yeah, I know.
That hurts, man.
I know. Especially when we get into 3, 2, and 1, you're gonna be like, the fuck is wrong with you, Matt? I already know it.
All right.
You want to go with number 3?
Number 3?
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 3 for me is Parasite.
Okay.
I've sung Parasite's praises, I think, twice when I said on What Have You Been Watching Lately, and then when we actually reviewed it on the podcast.
Yeah.
But, you know, I love Bong Joon-ho. I don't think this is his best movie, but it's still excellent. It literally does everything. It's every genre. And it does all of the genres very well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what about you?
Number 3 on my list is Little Women. I know.
What?
Yeah. It's really good.
Okay.
I mean...
Which is weird after you shit-talked Greta Gerwig earlier.
I know. I knew I'd be getting it. But at the same time, quickly, as an aside, I saw a tweet that really made me laugh hard about Greta Gerwig's movies, and they said, oh, maybe in her next movie she'll confront her biggest fear, black people.
Oh, come on.
But
do you have any idea how many white filmmakers?
I know. It's really bad. It's really bad to attack her on that. But it was a pleasant surprise because I figured it was going to be a lot like Lady Bird, which was Lady Bird was well done but amateurly executed. I didn't think there was anything amazing about the cinematography. I didn't think there was anything amazing about any of the choices she made in editing.
Hot take. I straight up don't like Lady Bird.
Oh, really?
I didn't. I thought it was boring. I struggled to get through it.
I thought the reason I liked it was because I think if you're younger, you relate more to the Saoirse Ronan character, but if you're any bit older, you completely relate to the mother. And it felt really honest. Lady Bird felt really honest, which I really liked. Little Women goes full on, like, she plays around with a bunch of different things that I didn't think she was going to. It's told in a non-linear way. All of the performances are really good, yes, including ass-faced Timothée Chalamet, who plays a rich asshole. And guess what? He's pretty good at playing a rich asshole, I guess. So, luckily, he doesn't have to do that much. Like, he doesn't have to carry the movie that much. If if you like Saoirse Ronan, then she does a good job. But if you don't like Saoirse Ronan, then you can probably stay away. Did you end up? Did you see Atonement?
No.
Okay, so in Atonement, Saoirse Ronan's character is like a little girl who writes plays for her friends that they perform, and in Little Women, she writes plays for her friends to perform. But there's a nice circularity about the movie and about the context of the novel in general, in the sense of, like, Saoirse Ronan's character is the character in Little Women, and she writes a book that's ultimately titled Little Women, but she has to use a nom de plume on it, and so the nom de plume she uses is Louisa May Alcott, and there's a note in there where the publisher is like, oh, well, we need her to end up with a guy, which was a big controversy at the time. She didn't want to have the main character end up with a man at the end. So they even have a little bit of that in there where she's like, fine, well, what if I write it like this? And it goes into that. And then it's just really well executed. And, like, you know, Florence Pugh's, I believe that's how you pronounce her name, because that's how I've been pronouncing it.
Yeah.
Her stock.
I think it's Pugh.
Yeah. She's, like, huge right now. And she almost steals the show in the movie. There's this really weird moment where 24-year-old Florence Pugh has to pretend like she's 13-year-old. Which is kind of like she's like pretending and running out, chasing her sister like she's 13. And it's like, oh, that's a decision. And Greta Gerwig takes a lot of decisions like that. For example, because it's non-linear, all of the scenes in the past are done with a yellow tint. All the scenes in the present are done, well, not, you know, quote, present, unquote, are done with a blue tint. It's pretty standard filmmaking 101, but it's still subtle enough that, like, if you're not paying attention, then it hits you on a psychological level. They have these weird moments where letters are, like, directly addressed to the camera. Bob Odenkirk shows up for a little bit for some reason. Laura Dern is really good in it as
nice.
Yeah, she's between Marriage Story, where she's an absolute shark bitch, and Little Women, where she's like the caring, loving mother who's also flawed. She's like carving out a nice little comeback.
I was gonna say, I'm totally on board with the Laura Dern, like, comeback
Me too.
tour that she seems to be doing the past couple of years.
Yep.
Because she just disappeared for a while, and then it was like she came back in Twin Peaks, and now she's back in this other stuff.
I don't get it. I'm just happy. Unfortunately, as I said before, I'm pretty sure she's coming back. Next time we see her may be in Jurassic World 3.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. But I like movies that, like, Little Women I genuinely liked it. I'm going to apologize for genuinely liking it a lot, but I did.
No need to apologize.
I did. I thought it was very well executed.
It's okay to enjoy things. I mean, I haven't seen it, so I guess I should probably check it out then. It's one of those things where it's like, you know, Lady Bird, I didn't see it when it came out, but it got there was so much ranting and raving about how great it was. So I checked it out, and it was just, I was so bored.
Yeah.
I was so bored.
I think where she came with the idea for Lady Bird was interesting, but it was not a tight movie at all. It was very, like, vignette-y, slice of life-y, and, you know, Timothée Chalamet is in there. Fucking guy. He just can't stop. Yeah, I don't know if you'll like Little Women any better, but it's got stronger source material, and the emotional moments that hit really well, and they're all very well earned.
Okay.
Yeah.
On that tweet you mentioned about Greta Gerwig's greatest fear being black people,
Yeah.
I feel like she's only getting that flack because she's a woman.
It might be the case, but I mean, like, I didn't tell you this joke, but when the trailer for Tenet came out, and they're like, from Christopher Nolan comes a new type of hero, and it's what's his name walks up, and I'm like,
John David Washington.
He walks up, and I'm like, his new kind of hero is black. Is that what the new kind of hero is? Like, a new kind of hero, a black man. I was like, yep, that sounds about right. Next time it'll be a woman.
Oh my gosh.
So, I understand that she's getting a lot of flack for it, but I think it is partially because she's a woman, but I also think it's partially because I don't know if she's doing this, but there's a perceived progressive agenda behind it. And they're like, oh, well, that's good. I'm glad that you've brought in, female audiences and stuff like that. But especially with Lady Bird was like,
I mean,
I've been to Sacramento. There are black people in Sacramento. In Little Women, it makes more sense. But, yeah.
Well, it's just, I think that, like, she's a woman making movies about women.
Yeah.
Which people, I think, automatically assume is like, oh, she's progressive, but there's no black people. So she's not progressive enough, so let's attack her. Yeah. Whereas, like, no one's complaining about the lack of, minority representation in The Irishman. Right.
Yeah. But I've had a problem.
So
I've had a problem with that in Scorsese's movies, especially with his use of the N-word and the lack of representation of black men. Like, that's very much something. Yeah. I think you are.
But it's
right.
not something that's in the larger cultural conversation. Like, no one. Like, a lot, like, and even people have kind of just given Tarantino a pass for stuff that he got in a lot of trouble for 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah. Are you talking about the Uma Thurman thing? Or are you talking about him walking around in Pulp Fiction being like, does it say end storage on my place?
Yeah, well, that, but also just, like, anytime a white actor is in one of his movies, it's like a golden ticket to just drop as many N-bombs as they want scot-free. And, he got in trouble for that a while back, and Samuel L. Jackson's like, y'all need to lay off him.
Yeah.
And then they just stopped. No one cares anymore. So, yeah, I don't know if Greta Gerwig completely deserves the amount of shit that she's getting, if she is getting that much shit about this.
I don't think she's getting a lot of shit about it, but it's also, like, I mean, how many movies do you have to go in when you're not at least having a named character before it's like, yeah, this is bad. Like, I haven't seen any of any of Noah Baumbach's other works, but I could accuse him of the same thing in Marriage Story. You know what I mean?
Oh, I think you could accuse him of that in his entire oeuvre. I don't think there's a black person to be found.
Yeah, and
but again, he's not getting any shit about it,
and he should be, because he and Greta Gerwig are a thing, so he should be getting fucked about it. But anyway,
and also all of Noah Baumbach's movies are set in New York, and
yeah. Oh wait, yeah, there are no black people in New York.
New York, you're a fucking liar.
Yeah, I know That's why, because, like, I'll go down my list. Like, yeah, you're right. With The Irishman, it would be not, it's not a thing. But then, like, you got John Wick 3, which is like, in John Wick 2, you had Common, and then in John Wick 3, you had Halle Berry. So they're just getting one person to check off as many as they can at a time. Oh, fuck. I will say this. I didn't talk enough about John Wick when we were talking about number 6 like, seeing somebody get their throat slit open by a sword embedded in a piece of glass is still probably tops for the best way to go out on movies. Anyway. Should we move to number 2?
Sure. So number 2 is a movie that I seem to be the only person who likes. It's Under the Silver Lake.
Yep. I figured this was going to be either number 2 or number 1.
Yep. Under the Silver Lake is number 2. It's a shame. It's a fucking shame, man. I found out that there is a Blu-ray release now.
Oh, good.
So that's good. That's a good sign. I'm hoping history will
be more kind to
dig it up somehow. Be more kind to it. Yeah, because it's so good. Holy shit, it is so good. Everything about it's good, and I don't understand why people hate it. I mean, I understand in theory why people hate it, but on a gut level, I don't.
It's so weird. That's why.
It's great. It's great weird. Like, there's bad weird, but this is good weird.
It is, for the most part, it is good weird. But it's also, I wonder if it's also because it's super niche LA, because it really is like, I don't know, I want to say super hipstery in some ways. But
Sort of.
But go into
Well,
why.
what's interesting is
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, so what's interesting is, I mentioned with Waves, Trey Edward Scholes writes and directs It Comes at Night, and then does something completely different. David Robert Mitchell does It Follows, which is one of the best movies ever, and then does Under the Silver Lake, which is completely different. And it's also weird because David Robert Mitchell is like a Michigan guy, so all his previous movies are very much about like Detroit. Like It Follows could be interpreted as a story about Detroit more than anything else. And then he makes a movie that's super like LA-ish.
Yeah.
But okay, what do I like about it? It looks amazing. The story's really interesting. Andrew Garfield does a great job. All of the little like kind of cartoon characters that he meets across the movie are fun and funny and interesting and sometimes menacing. It bends genres really well. Like it's got, it's obviously mostly a mystery movie, but it brings in a lot of great horror and comedy elements. Like I'm a big conspiracy fan. I'm not a big conspiracy believer, but I enjoy conspiracies.
You like delving into the discourse of it? Maybe
yeah,
not.
because they're fun.
Yeah.
Like even if most of them are bullshit, they're still fun. So I like that a movie is not just a mystery movie, but it's like this completely whacked out conspiracy movie as well. And I like kind of the way that it weaves, all this pop culture shit into its conspiracy storyline. I like everything about it, man. The scene where he meets the songwriter.
Yes.
The guy who's written every popular song
Oh
ever.
my God,
like,
so
that scene
awesome.
Is so good. It's
So awesome.
freaking good. And then he beats him to death with Kurt Cobain's guitar.
It's filled with a bunch of things like that. Like what is it? Like the Raven Killer or whatever?
The Dog Killer.
The Dog Killer, which is kind of what gets the whole thing going, but I don't remember. Is there a resolution to the Dog Killer?
No, it just gets dropped.
Yeah, it's just yeah. Andrew Garfield is great. The whole supporting cast and how wacky the movie ends up getting is fantastic. I do really appreciate that and how it's able to kind of hold on to that for so long, but it's so strange that it's almost disconnected, I think. And I feel like a lot of people felt that way. I'm still surprised that A24 sacked it as it did, because it's no stranger than The Lighthouse ends up being.
Yeah.
And it's not, okay, so it's clearly not on your list. So, because I think I know what number one is. But I think it's better than Midsummer. Maybe not the cinematography, because Midsummer is so out there on the cinematography. But like, I would rather watch Under the Silver Lake again than Midsummer.
Oh yeah, totally.
So like, I feel like it's a better and more like, it's a more accessible movie than that. So I'm with you. I'm kind of surprised, but also it's really weird. And I hate to say it, but maybe Andrew Garfield, they used him to try and sell the movie, and his stock is just not there anymore.
I don't think he has much stock right now.
Yeah,
but
no.
it's just, I love movies like this that are very ambitious. They're very technically well done. And this movie is so dense. Like, it's just dense with stuff, with references, with meaning, with
nudity.
A little bit, yeah, some of that as well.
So much Andrew Garfield ass. So much Andrew Garfield ass.
But it's so dense with information.
Yes.
That I can understand how that might be a bit of an issue. Because, like, if you stop paying attention for 2 seconds, you're going to miss a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's fantastic. And I think some of the points that it makes regarding, like, what the point of the larger narrative is, I think people sometimes get hung up on it. Like, I can understand why some people, like, I think Austin mentioned, it doesn't feel like it adds up to much.
Yeah.
But I think it's like the solution to the mystery isn't as important as kind of everything else going on.
Yeah.
Where it's sort of, I think it's more about how Hollywood and kind of the world generally tends to chew up vulnerable people, especially women. So, the solution to the mystery isn't as big as is just sort of the general way that all of this is allowed to happen,
And it's funny, I felt like the solution a little like maybe initially a little unsatisfying, but you break it down into the brass tacks and like, you know, I guess also part of the problem is that this guy is such a loser that like I wonder if people had a hard time relating to him, which I did to an extent, you know, but again, Andrew Garfield steals it with charisma. But it is such a weird conclusion to an ending, and it's kind of just, it's not even bittersweet, it's just kind of bitter, where it's like he's been chasing this thing for so long, and the ultimate answer is like a bit underwhelming, and then they have that conversation and it's just heartbreaking. It's just like, oh man,
it's really
such
good,
a good
though.
moment.
Like, it's really well done.
But I think that's like the movie in a nutshell, where it's so weird, so bitter, but then also so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It really is. Also, props for great use of "What's the Frequency, Kenneth."
I don't remember that line in there.
There's like that. There's the scene where there's like the mausoleum, like underground dance party where all the tables are like headstones of famous celebrities, and like Andrew Garfield gets high out of his mind, and it starts playing "What's the Frequency, Kenneth."
I forgot about that scene.
Yeah, it's great.
Where's Jesus? Right? Where's Jesus? Hey man, someone just gives me the songs, all right? Oh fuck, dude. It is such,
the movie's awesome. It is so good.
It's such a great layered movie.
Yeah, it's just that it's one of those things where there are so many layers to it that it's such a fascinating watch. Like I was hooked from beginning to end. I was completely enthralled by it.
I wasn't quite until things really started getting going.
Okay.
But that was just me personally. It was hard for me to kind of get into the world. Did you see it in theaters or did you watch it on Prime?
It didn't come out in theaters.
Okay,
I had to
that's
see it
right.
on Prime.
Yeah, that was my only, like, if I had just sat down and just kind of like, okay, time to watch it, go, and kind of go in with no expectations. I didn't have any expectations for it, actually. And
neither did I. I expected it to be interesting just because it got such mixed reviews.
Actually, did since we've already name dropped him, did Austin was the one who saw it first, is that right? Or did you see it first?
He saw it first.
Okay.
I think he said in our group chat something like Gabe should see this or something. And I'm like, oh,
I guess I'll like this. But yeah, I remember he was also very like nonplussed by it.
Yeah.
So I think that might have gotten my spirits down for it. But I mean, I really liked it too. I think about it a lot because I know that you were a big fan of it. But it wasn't really one of my honorable mentions because I knew you were going to talk about it. So I kind of got to cheat there.
Okay.
But yeah, it's really good.
And what's your number 2?
My number 2, no surprises, is Parasite.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't have too much more to say about this one. It's really good, really depressing. It's weird because the moment that I knew that I really liked the movie was when they went back to their apartment after they had after they snuck out of the house. They went back to the apartment and it was raining and they had to, and their whole lives were coming apart. And just the idea that the whole movie's genre can change on a dime like that.
Yeah.
That's what kind of solidified it for me. And then when when they're at the party and everyone's kind of set up for the party and everything, and the guy comes out of the bunker and starts trying to attack he attacks the main character's family, but the rich family thinks that he's attacking them, and all of that stuff just like also really amazingly executed. And it just when guy from Snowpiercer just cuts down the head of the family, it just like I totally understood where he was coming from. I understood everything that brought him to that point, and it's just such it was just such like a beautiful moment, even though he's murdering a guy. I guess that says something about me, but I think about the movie a lot, and that's why it's so high on the list, because I constantly think about how they made the movie, how they how they executed it, the screenplay of it, which you can find for free online. You can download the screenplay online if you want to read.
In English?
In English, yeah. Which probably not as good as watching it take place, but Parasite's just amazing. It's number 2.
So number 1.
Wait, what are your honorable mentions?
Okay, honorable mentions, they're all kind of interchangeable in some ways. Honorable mentions are like The Irishman, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Midsummer, Dragged Across Concrete.
Yeah, I didn't see Dragged Across Concrete.
The Nightingale is really good, but just barely missed the list.
Which one's The Nightingale? That's not the Goldfinch, right?
No, The Nightingale, you know Jennifer Kent? She's that Australian lady who did The Babadook.
No, I didn't see The
Well,
Babadook.
this is her follow-up. It's the most depressing movie ever made, as all Australian movies are. It's hard to watch. It's truly hard to watch. But it's really good. It's very sad, and it's very beautiful in a lot of ways, strangely enough. But it's basically an Irish convict in, like 1800s Australia. Her family is killed by British army people, and she's raped like Jesus.
Oh, God.
An insane number of times for the first 30 minutes of the movie. Oh. And then goes on this Australia trotting adventure with a Aboriginal guide to wreak violent and horrible revenge on everyone.
So it's I Spit on Your Grave, Australian style?
Kind of, yeah. Except it's a lot more than that, because it gets into a lot of kind of how the British settlers interacted with the natives and just sort of the environment in general.
Okay.
And it's about kind of their contrasting ways of life and their contrasting values. Again, it's rough. It's really rough. But it's very well made and very poignant as well.
Is it?
And it's not like, I think you could accuse it of being overly indulgent in all of the horror that goes on, but it does have its kind of moments of redemption in a way.
Okay. But the fact that that's ambiguous does that detract from like it feeling very satisfying as a movie at all? Or were you thoroughly it made your honorable mention, so it's got to be up there in like a Witness or something.
Yeah, it's like a high Witness,
okay,
low shiny and chrome, that kind of territory.
Yeah, but it's not something you like to revisit.
I would never revisit it. Well, it is like I said, it's hard to watch.
Yeah.
Like it really is. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
So one time watching it is enough, I think.
Gotcha. Any other honorable mentions?
Nope.
I was a big fan. So some that we've already covered: Uncut Gems, Ad Astra, Marriage Story. As you know, those are kind of interchangeable with my 9 and 10 slot.
Okay.
I wanted to point out, because I really liked Booksmart, which is, I guess it's kind of weird because Booksmart's kind of like a female version of Superbad, but
that's what everyone says. Yeah.
There's a couple of differences. I think it's a lot more. It's shot a lot more competently than Superbad, and then, well, because there's this great moment near the end of Act 2 where it's just this one long take of the two friends arguing, and the take itself is amazing because it starts off as like, they start shouting at this party, and then everyone kind of turns slowly and realizes they're all arguing, and then they all pull out their phones and start recording it, and it just keeps going and going and going. And they drop the sound out, just show them going at it and arguing and arguing and arguing, and it's like that moment stands out in the movie. They have fun with stop motion animation and relating it to Barbie, because the plot of it is that these two characters, one of them is this like overachieving, over the top, like Ruth Bader Ginsburg admiring, strong feminist, all I care about is getting into the best college character, who's played by I believe it's like Jonah Hill's sister or something. And then the other character is this also overachieving friend who's a lesbian. And they realize that the most popular girl in school got into the same college as the overachieving student. So they're like, we have to have one last night of partying hard. And so kind of the misadventures that happen,
Okay.
that's why it's kind of like Superbad. Where it's different is that Superbad it feels like it kind of gives the characters what they want, thinking that what they want is what they need. This movie is critical, and what they think they want, they find out ultimately is not the same as what they need. And so, whereas in Superbad, the characters don't really grow, in this movie, the characters do grow. There's only one thing that's really kind of sketchy that I don't like about it, where there's this 18-year-old student who hooks up with his teacher. And it just feels very 1980s. It feels very out of place in a movie today. It's like a movie as smart as Booksmart makes a really calculated error there. But it's good. It's it plays it pretty by the numbers, so there's no real surprises in it. But it's really well done.
Okay. One comment on Superbad is I always thought the ending of that movie was more mixed. Like they get what they want, and then at the very end, it's almost like The Graduate, where it's like they're kind of like, wait a minute, is this actually a good idea?
In what way? Because I remember like they both get dates with the girls that they wanted. Mm-hmm.
And it's like the last shot of the movie is them moving away from each other with the girls that they wanted to go out with, and they both kind of look at each other with this look of uncertainty.
Huh. I saw Superbad once and I didn't love it. So I don't remember that happening. I just remember that they get the people that, they get the two girls that they really want. And then it kind of ended there. And I was always kind of like, that happened. And then like the stuff with McLovin where they're like the two worst cops ever. And they kind of just let him off the hook. It's like, like it feels like it feels like it happens in an abstract world where, the main characters get to basically do whatever they want and there's no real consequences. That's how I read the movie. Whereas in Booksmart, it's like very real consequences to everything that happens. So
interesting.
And then the other one I saw was The Farewell, which is really good because it's a slice of how another culture deals with how doctors and culture are different in China than they are in America. And it's kind of slow and meandering, but it's still done really well. All right, what's your number? Well, can I predict your number one?
Sure.
Lighthouse?
Yes. Nailed it, sir.
I knew it was either going to be that or Under the Silver Lake.
Yeah, Lighthouse is number one. It's so good, especially the ending, but everything about it is great. I love it to death. I saw it twice in the same week.
That's right, you did.
Yeah, I'm starting to run out of like superlatives for it, but it is just so freaking good.
It is. It's amazing. It's an amazing movie.
It really is.
The performances are great,
really is.
Especially because it's only the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
The framing is great. It's such a great callback to old movies, but like reinforced by new information.
Yeah,
that's great.
All right. What's your number one?
My number one is 1917.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep. I went full on pretentious. Full on white boy pretentious. And I'm even aware, even while I was watching it, of one major criticism of it that I want to get out of the way immediately, which is movies about World War I, which is a conflict that neither side was necessarily correct in, should almost always balance both perspectives. And in 1917, all of the German soldiers are basically Nazis before they're Nazis for the heroes to gun down. There's nothing redeemable about the Germans at all.
Well, but you don't even see any Germans, really.
Well, you see one major one who does a major act and kills them. And then in general, like...
Well, yeah, but he seems to just be, like, panicking more than anything.
Well, I wouldn't know. They didn't show it. And they also make it even more critical because, like, maybe it's one of those staples of war movies that anytime someone shows mercy to the enemy, they instantly have to die, because it happens all the time in war movies. But I thought that was kind of like that was a neat way to get rid of the character, and so that, you can have your nice Richard Madden cameo. But it was also just like there was nothing humanizing about Germany in that movie at all, except as fodder to either die or shoot out the main character. Now with that out of
but like
yeah,
Dunkirk, you don't get a German perspective really on that either.
but that's World War II. And in World War II, as we all know, fascism is bad. Or at least that's what I thought we all knew. So that's...
Well, we thought... It's the thing we thought we knew, but apparently some folks disagree.
Yeah. But like with Dunkirk, it's unbalanced. Because I was thinking about 1917 and how, in my mind, it's one of the best World War I movies. Because you have Paths of Glory, you've got War Horse... you've got I had like a list of them as I was watching the movie. Lawrence of Arabia, I guess, but that doesn't really count. But as you said before, on a technical level, 1917 is amazing. And as you know, I love movies that have simple plots but brilliant technical execution. Or you might not know. I love movies that have simple plots because it allows directors to really show off what they can do. And it's ever since that every frame of painting about Spielberg and Kurosawa and how they do their oneers where they're moving the pieces around as opposed to just moving the camera. You get a lot of that in 1917 because, like you said, he has to reframe the shots to be one take.
So it's like if they want to show off, say, the camp, right? Yeah. Or the trench, they have to kind of arrange it all so that as the two characters are walking forward, all of a sudden, like, all the mess and the barber and everything else just like comes into view. Right. So you kind of get the tour in the background in a weird way
of what's going on. Yeah. And I could tell where they had certain cuts, but there were a couple of places like I thought that there was like 8 cuts throughout the entire movie, and you could clearly delineate where the cuts were. I didn't realize it was supposed to be a pseudo one take. And I think they do it better in this movie than they did it even in Birdman, because in Birdman, a couple of those wipes, like the framing of the characters is completely off. Whereas in this movie, on the only time I could tell that there like a wipe occurred and something different happened was because there wasn't as much mud on their boots, or because the one,
or like you pass behind a hill and then like the day is further along.
Maybe sometimes, but I mean, I think the first, like, because they have when he hits his head, I think that first chunk of the movie is supposed to take place in real time, which is why I didn't think the thing was a gimmick. I thought it was a way to keep you in the moment the entire time. And then George McKay, I don't think is like the best actor ever, but he did a really good job in this movie. Like I think he did a good enough job. I think I like you said, I like all the cameos. I think Richard Madden's was my favorite because I completely felt all of the emotion that he was going through, just thinking of like, and it's because, I have an older brother, so like I understood why. The sound design is amazing, and so is the score. I think the score is just really good. It reminded me a little bit too much of Skyfall because they had the and I was like, what the hell is this techno score doing in a fucking World War I movie? But I think Sam Mendes got a little bit of flack for a disconnect between the action scenes in Skyfall and the dramatic scenes in Skyfall. And I think this was also partially done as a way to show, no, I can do action scenes and dramatic scenes and have them lead seamlessly into one another. And the period detail, I absolutely loved. The sets had to have been like amazing. And unlike some movies where I love them on a technical level and not necessarily on a storytelling level, but I'll watch it because I love the technical prowess of it, this movie, I just really all around 100% love. I think all of it, instead of the movie having elements in it that one overshadows the other, in this movie, every single element makes the whole product stronger.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, I think the technical virtuosity mixes with the story really well, which I think I mentioned before. Like, it's, it enhances the story.
It does. It enhances the story.
Might otherwise be, and the story might otherwise be a little less interesting without those elements.
Oh, definitely.
Or it may not have the desired effect without those
No,
elements.
definitely. And you mentioned earlier about how they had like these weird random talks as they were walking through the fields of like, you know, this or that. And I like that because it put me in in place with them. But it also like it was like, oh, we saw this in Saving Private Ryan when they were walking around bullshitting about like where Cap came from. Let's put stuff like that in this movie. So
it's just also interesting because it feels like theater.
It does. It
in
very
a lot
much
of points.
Very much so. Especially in the way that they had to move people around for staging and things like that. But by theater, I think I'm guessing you mean like how playwrights will have these long sections of dialogue that add to the story, but also don't really add to the story. That sort of thing, where it's subtly built into it.
Well, it's in the sense that theater is dialogue,
right?
Like the dialogue is the paintbrush, and theater is the painting.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So it's like this: the story is told through dialogue in theater, and so it's all just scenes of people talking. And you know, this movie, because it's like you can't do flashbacks, you can't be someplace else, you can't cross-cut, you can't do any of those things. You have to be right here, right now, with these two people in the moment.
Right.
So a lot of the storytelling legwork has to be done by their conversations, and that's what I mean. It felt like theater.
Yeah.
And it's never like very overt either. It's always like well-written dialogue where it seems to be about nothing, but it is giving you story information through subtext or whatever.
Yeah, I agree. And I also like how it started with him waking up and it ended with him going back to sleep.
That annoyed me a little bit.
I felt so bad for that asshole. I kept calling him this poor bastard. That was his name to me.
I know. It's funny because when he starts walking away from the camp at the end,
you knew exactly what was
going to happen. I thought it's like, oh no, please don't like sit by a tree and fall asleep.
I like that as corny and or contrived as it is. I was like, hey, you know what? That asshole earned it, man. But Jesus Christ, that poor bastard.
Lieutenant Schofield.
Lieutenant Schofield. Yeah. So yeah, that's a pretty good list. It's funny. There's only one movie that you saw that I did not see on your top 10 list, and that's Waves.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you've piqued my curiosity. So I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I'll probably have to check out Little Women. I'm still like never gonna watch Avengers Endgame.
What I would suggest is if your girlfriend likes Little Women the book, or if she has any interest in it, which I don't know if she does.
I don't think she does.
Well, that's how I got away with it. I was like, I know Aaliyah wants to see it, so I'll see it then. So, but I was curious because
I mean, I have no shame about going to a theater to see a movie like Little Women. I just had no interest in it.
Yeah, the thing is,
if it's really that good, I might have to check it out.
I mean, I'm probably I'm much higher on it than you probably would be. I think it was executed really well, but I also really like a lot of the actresses in it. I'm not saying that. I guess I am saying that it's a pretty perfect movie.
Do you like them, or do you like them?
Por qué no los dos?
Oh wow, okay.
Well, okay, so like I don't think Emma Watson is the best actress. I think she needs to be in a project that she can shine in, and I think at her as a supporting character was a good choice, and also her American accent is really good. But
yeah, it's. I've seen her play Americans before, and her accent's always been good.
Yeah, like she's usually good when she has a good director, I think. And I think that Greta Gerwig is getting to the point where she's a good technical director. She's already a good like actor and performance director, but I think she's getting to the point where she's getting to be a better technical director because there's a lot of good technical aspects on Little Women and a lot of really good choices that I liked. So, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Well, shit, dude. That was 2019. What a weird year.
Yeah, I was very disappointed with the year until like I started putting the list together. I'm like, you know what? There's been some really good movies,
especially in the back half. Well, I'm not really surprised, but a lot of people have been saying that The Joker is good, and it's kind of funny that it didn't make either of our honorable mentions. Like,
No, because it's like past the honorable mentions for me. It's like there's Us, there's Knives Out, and then after those maybe Joker.
is Us worth watching?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's entertaining.
All right, I'll add it to my list. Yeah, I'm interested in seeing it. I just didn't see it at the time. That's where I need to be better as a film goer. I need to see the waves and the us's out there.
It's not Greta Gerwig that has a problem.
No, it's not. I will say this. I'm kind of sad that 1917 has dethroned Star Wars at the box office because it makes it as my number one pick feel a little less special when everyone is seeing it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I understand. It's that weird thing of like you want to have this like special thing. You're like, oh, I know what this is, but you don't.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like, I always want people to see. Like, I don't want to be that guy who's like, well, my favorite movie of this year is some shit you never heard of. Like, I want everyone to see The Lighthouse. I want everyone to see Under the Silver Lake. I want those movies to make a shitload of money and to be really popular so that more movies like that can get made.
Yeah. I mean, I tell everyone that they should see Parasite. Everyone. And The Lighthouse, actually.
Dude, Parasite did fucking gangbusters. It made like 40 or 50 million just in the United States.
I'm not surprised. I don't know. I think it just had really good word of mouth. Like,
oh, totally.
Like,
yeah.
I 100% believe that movie had good word of mouth.
Like, when I saw it in the theater, that theater was packed.
I think there were quite a few people in mine. I was surprised that it got wide released where I was living because it's a Korean drama. Like,
well, I think that was partly due to the word of mouth. It was the fact
definitely.
that they rolled it out in limited release. All the theaters were packed to the gills, so it's like, well, screw it, let's try it wide release. Yeah, it made at least 130 million worldwide box office, which for a Korean drama is pretty dang good.
Yeah. Oh man.
130 million on an $11 million budget.
Oh God. I think they made back all of their money.
I'd say that's pretty safe to say. The real question is, did The Lighthouse make back?
I wonder if it was just released too soon.
Oh, it did. It made 13 million on a 4 million budget.
Oh my God, that thing was only 4 million.
Yep.
It's so weird because like you and Austin sang Robert Eggers' praises for The Witch, which I think is good, but it's not my favorite. Like, I understand why you guys both really like it. And so to me, like when he came out with The Lighthouse and he's got Defoe in it and he's got Pattinson in it, I'm like, I don't know, man, maybe he's taken the next step. Like maybe this is like the movie. And it's weird to think that like he's worked with people that like if you name drop Robert Eggers' name, apparently I don't even know how to say it. If you drop his name, which is no surprise, if you drop his name with like other filmmakers, they'd be like, who? And I'm like, I thought he kind of crested that like a little while ago, but I hope The Lighthouse makes a good bit more than just its budget back. I hope it can make.
I hope so.
I hope it has some legs.
I mean, I think Robert Eggers is one of the premier filmmakers in the world right now. I mean, I think if there's any sort of rising star, like the person to watch for something big, it's him.
Now that the Safdie brothers have kind of crossed into the mainstream.
Well, the Safdie brothers, I think they've made it to a degree. Uncut Gems, I think, is a big sort of coming out party for those guys.
Yeah.
But also, like, for the Safdie brothers, Good Time is an amazing movie, and then their other movies are really good, but they're not like quite, they're not at that level.
Yeah.
Whereas Robert Eggers, both movies he's made have been absolutely incredible, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they've been such a strong singular vision, which is
well, and the Safdie brothers have that too, or maybe not a singular vision, but a dual vision.
Right.
But I think in terms of like up and comers who are gonna, people should watch out for, I would say if I had to pick one, I would say Robert Eggers is the guy.
Yeah. Well, especially his next I'm just happy that he has a next project that he's pitching around now. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Shit. You have anything else to say about this year before we put it in the books? this last year.
About last year.
Yeah.
No, I hope 2020 is better. Although I can't think of anything that's coming out this year. I'm super excited for.
No Time to Die?
Other than Tenet. Well, I'm mildly excited about No Time to Die.
Okay.
We'll see how that goes because I don't know what Fukunaga is gonna look like handling a big studio project versus something where he has a lot more control.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm excited for Tenet because Christopher Nolan just gets blank checks to do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And it's always at least interesting. And, like, I don't think he's made a single movie I don't like.
I haven't seen Is it Insomnia?
Insomnia?
Yeah, I haven't seen Insomnia in a long time. I had a hard time getting through that one. That would be...
I like it. I think it's a good one.
Okay, I'd go back and watch Al Pacino.
I mean, Robin Williams steals the show in that movie.
Does he? It's crazy to think that, like, before... Like, Christopher Nolan is, like, cinema god level now. But there was a time when he was just kind of like he was known for Memento, and he had a chance to work with Al Pacino and Robin Williams in a movie. Like, it's just weird that's, like, in addition to all of his plot, it's like that is one of the movies that he did starting out. And then, you know, he did Batman Begins and just Batman Begins,
and
Prestige,
from
and
there.
Just insanity after that. But
yeah.
I'm excited. I'm interested in Tenet. Tenet seems kind of strange, but I'm interested in it, definitely.
Well, and it's also interesting just because it plays into his central obsession with time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Because every single one of his movies, it's time. So now it's even more blatant in this.
Yeah, if it wasn't blatant enough in Dunkirk,
Memento,
Inception. Well, I mean, all of them do, obviously. Like, I mean, even The Prestige to a degree. I didn't even think about it for the Batman movies, but there is an element of time. Like, Batman Begins plays a lot more with fluctuations of time because they go back and forward and stuff like that. But then even in The Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, there's elements of, like, the critical factor of timing, that sort of thing. So
yeah,
3 months.
So it's so yeah, it's interesting to see him. It's always interesting what he does.
Yes,
because he's, like I said, I don't think he's made a bad movie. Obviously, some of his movies are not as good as others, but I don't think he's made a bad one.
Yeah, well, I think the one that you're thinking of is Interstellar.
Yeah, to a degree, and Insomnia, while it is very good, it's not as memorable as a lot of the other ones. I mean, as you can tell, because not many people remember it. Even though, like I said, like, because the thing with Insomnia, the best part about it is Robin Williams and his performance. But the rest of the movie, while good, is not, you know, anything to really rant and rave about.
Yeah. That's kind of how I felt about it. I was just kind of I was a little bit confused about what was going on and not fully engaged, so that's why I have to give it another go. Tenet, I am looking forward to. No Time to Die, I'm definitely looking forward to. I'm looking forward to The Gentleman, Guy Ritchie's new movie.
Well, you really like Guy Ritchie, right?
I like him okay. I think Matthew Vaughn kind of does Guy Ritchie better than Guy Ritchie, but like I'm always interested, and the more sort of Guy Ritchie a movie is of his, the more I like it, which is why, like, Aladdin you could tell he was doing it for the paycheck. So I'm hoping The Gentleman is back on track. It seems like it might be, and, you know, I
was gonna say, if you want to talk about worst movies of 2019, I'd say Aladdin. Aladdin is tied for the bottom spot with
Lion King.
I didn't see Lion King. I would say it's tied with that Zac Efron Ted Bundy movie.
Oh God. The problem is there were a lot of terrible movies. I probably could go into a handful of them. There were a lot of bad movies, but I didn't see a lot of them. Like, I did not see Incredibly Evil, Incredibly Cruel, Shockingly Evil and Vile. Like that.
Extremely Wicked.
That's what it was. Fuck that movie name. No wonder no one saw it. God damn.
It's bad.
Did you actually watch it?
I watched the first 20 minutes, and they were so horrible, I just shut it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. That and Aladdin are tied for like worst movie of the year.
I'm surprised you saw
For me,
Aladdin.
anyway. Well, we all make mistakes.
We'll see. I'm like, it's getting to the point, like, I can understand why they would make live action remakes of old Disney movies. It drives me nuts that they make live action remakes of Disney movies that are less than 50 years old. That's not saying that I want to see, a remake of Robin Hood with a fucking fox and having like Liev Schreiber play the fox there. Like, no.
CGI, ultra realistic CGI fox that has no emotion.
No, they just do the Cats technology, blend the faces together.
Cats technology on Liev Schreiber.
Yeah, that would actually. Okay, you know what? Fuck, I would actually want to see that movie. I've gone.
Be careful what you wish for.
But see, Disney wouldn't do something that drastically, amazingly bad. Like,
they're too risk averse.
Get Willie Nelson to be the cock singing the song. Robin Hood, Little John.
What's his name? Alan Adale.
Well, you just get Willie Nelson now because I think Alan Adale's dead, right?
Well, no, Alan Adale is the character.
Oh,
like the singing rooster.
God, that would be a hard sell. That's a hard. Because I rewatched The Great Mouse Detective. Man, there's a reason why no one was watching Disney movies in the 80s. Man, fuck.
So you're telling me live action remake of Great Mouse Detective,
starring Benedict Cumberbatch as the Basil of Baker Street,
directed by Matthew Vaughn.
Directed by Matthew. But see, Matthew Vaughn. Oh, that's another movie I am unfortunately looking forward to. The King's Man. Yeah.
I tried. I gave The Kingsman a shot. I went in with an open mind, and it was so aggressively annoying.
Oh, you didn't like the original Kingsman?
I was kind of over it. No, I didn't.
Okay. I was a big fan of that one, and less so the second one. So, but I'm hoping the third one is a return to form. Did you end up seeing? Did you see Rocket Man by any chance? It doesn't seem like it'd be your kind of movie.
Definitely not. I didn't check it out just because it's. The one thing I can say is, like, looking over all the movies I've seen in the past, like, decade or so, I've gotten pretty good at avoiding a lot of the shit. I can tell from a trailer if I'm going to be okay with a movie or not.
Right.
So anything, I'm pretty good at, if something is a high risk that I'm going to hate it, I don't go.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Aladdin being an exception.
Yeah, the exception that, yeah. I did like Rocket Man. I kind of wish it were a little bit better, but it was still pretty good. If you saw the trailer and the trailer didn't do it for you, then do not see the movie, because that's one where the trailer was very accurate. So, surprisingly.
Okay.
Surprisingly.
Huh. All right, so questions. Looking forward to 2020.
Yes.
Are we going to get another Star Wars movie? And probably more important, are we getting a sequel to Alita: Battle Angel?
Well, it's weird because Alita came out this last year, so we wouldn't be getting a sequel immediately. I heard that.
Well, sequels do come out pretty quick now.
They do, but a sequel to Alita wouldn't come out this quickly.
I know, but it could get announced or something.
That could get announced. I wouldn't be surprised. A new Star Wars movie, I believe it's coming out in 2022, because the Avatar sequel is supposed to come out in 2021, and they wanna do Avatar sequel Star Wars, Avatar sequel Star Wars.
Wait, Disney owns Avatar?
Yeah, man. Well, James Cameron owns it, and 20th Century Fox distributed it and co-financed it, but now Disney owns 20th Century Fox, and Disney has in order to force James Cameron's hand, Disney opened up Pandora World of Tomorrow, which I believe I already said, I believe I've said it before, is much better than the movie itself, which kind of goes in line with quite a few like theme park areas that are actually better than the movies themselves, but because like it's the same with like the Cars area in California Adventure, like the actual ride is much better than any one of the Cars movies. So I think Disney forced James Cameron.
I still really like the first Cars movie though.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I've only seen Cars 3. I hear Cars 2 is terrible, and I thought that Cars 1 looked a lot like Doc Hollywood.
Logan?
Oh, Logan! What the hell? Freaking Owen Wilson car going around murdering people with his tires that have like shredded tears.
It's kind of the same plot.
It's about a man going to find his own. Did Logan come out 2 years?
It's about a man who's Logan?
Yeah, it came out.
I think so. It's 2017.
Yeah. Fuck.
So almost 3 years ago.
3 years ago in like March.
Yeah, Cars 3. Never saw it. I was kind of hoping like that for whatever reason they would just go completely off the reservation and make Cars 3 like this dark, gritty, like ultra realistic looking movie. Because like the teaser for Cars 3 makes it look like Lightning McQueen dies or something, and it also like the CGI animation looks a lot more photorealistic than earlier Pixar movies. So I'm like, it's like, oh shit, are we getting like a dark, gritty Cars? You know?
The answer was no.
Oh, that's too bad.
But
I would have. Yeah. That would have been interesting. I would have gone to see that, even if it was a complete and utter failure.
Yeah, it's funny. We didn't talk about Cars 3 when we were talking about racing movies. We didn't talk about Cars 2 or Cars 3. No, because Deakins completely changed. Like Deakins and a handful of people completely changed how Pixar started shooting their movies. Mm-hmm. And so it's weird to watch Cars and Cars 2, which is like before Deakins, and then Cars 3. It's the same with like Toy Story 3. It's weird to watch like Toy Story 1 and 2 and then Toy Story 3 where they have all of this like depth of focus stuff, and then Toy Story 4 where it looks like the PlayStation 4 equivalent of like Super Mario Brothers. So
Toy Story 4, is that movie any good?
Yeah,
that came out this year and I forgot that it existed.
I know. I'm actually I kind of left off any animated films. Normally I try and find a spot for one of them. Toy Story 4 is pretty good. It never gets past that feeling of, is this movie necessary? But it deals, like, I thought Forky was going to piss me off, but my God, Forky was hilarious because he's a character in a Pixar movie whose sole purpose is to commit suicide over and over and over. Yeah, in the teaser, there's that moment where he's like, I am a spork. I'm used for soup and salad and sometimes chili, and then I get thrown away in the trash. Freedom! And he like flies out the door. So like the first like 15 minutes of the movie is like Woody trying to make sure that Forky doesn't consistently throw himself in the trash can or like throw himself in an incinerator. And then,
oh my God.
Yeah. Well, the whole plot is like Bonnie doesn't like Woody anymore. Like, and Woody trying to figure out what his purpose in life is. And there's like the idea of like, oh, he should stay with Bonnie because, you know, the kid, he needs to support his kid. But what happens when your kid doesn't support you anymore? And that's contrasted by Bo Peep, who's become like this badass warrior princess. And her idea is like, well, if that kid doesn't support, like it happens all the time. It happened with Andy. It's happening with Bonnie. Just be a lost toy and help me out and, you know, bring joy to other kids. And then they have like a body horror. Did you want to see Toy Story 4?
No.
Okay, there's a body horror section where like Christina Hendricks' character, she wants a voice box to be put in her because she has a broken one. Mm-hmm. So she's hoping that this kid that keeps coming into the office or into the antique store, that if she has an actual voice, the kid will like her because she's a perfect toy again. So Woody is like consistently like going up against like, do I like, ultimately he decides to like, yes, I will give her my voice. And it's like this Korean style body horror. Like if you've seen Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, when he wakes up and there's just that slit there, like Bo Peep walks in and you just see like Woody's fur everywhere. There's like gaping hole in his back. And I was like, nice. So wait, there's like a female toy that talks like Tom Hanks? No, what it is they have to swap out a piece. God, I wish that would have been amazing.
Because like what he was describing this, I imagine like the Christina Hendricks toy. She's got like the ripcord or whatever. They pull the ripcord and it's Tom Hanks saying, "There's a snake in my boob" or something.
If only. No, there's like that would have been perfect. No, that's not the case. But it's not like if you were happy with the way Toy Story 3 ended, then you definitely can avoid it. It was still well done. And it was a lot darker and kind of goofier. But my recorder's about to run out, so I guess we should wrap this up.
Sounds good to me.
All right, man. Well, make sure to download the podcast on iTunes, like Gabe said earlier in the podcast. Leave us a comment or a review. We'd be happy. Be happy to respond to them.
Like us on Facebook.
Yes.
Visit our website for articles and other junk.
Yeah, we should. Should we post our top 10 as articles on the website?
I'm gonna do that.
Okay.
Probably in conjunction with when this podcast gets released.
All right, that works for me. And
I put a short piece up about Burning.
okay.
It's a very fast read, but it's something.
Nice.
It's got lots of pretty pictures from the movie to hopefully convince people to go see it.
Very good. And website, Facebook, SoundCloud, you can listen to it as well. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Well, that was 2019. We just threw it under the wheels. My name is Matthew.
I'm Gabe.
And you've just been under the wheels, which is redundant at this point. What the hell, dude? My audio recorder went from 3 batteries to 1 battery. Oof. Motherfucker, dude. This piece of shit. Anyway.
So what have you been watching lately?
Finished.